3 weeks until tonight. National Football League draft. The 89th NFL draft will take place at Lambeau Field. 21 days from tonight. I know, now they're talking about selling the broadcasting rights for the NFL draft. That's how big viewing the NFL is, whether it's in the regular season or whether it's the draft now. Even the combines generated millions of people watching that. I mean, at the end of the day, 89th NFL draft. 20,100 players have been drafted in that time. Proud to be one of them. But let me put this and add this onto it. This tush-push conversation is beneath me. It should be beneath any NFL guy who's ever laced it up. This is just beneath me. I'm sick of talking about it. It really is a conversation. And do you think it's a good look for the league, whether you land on the side of safety or whether you land on the side of the 16 owners who want to outlaw the play? How is this good for the league? I mean, we're not talking about, hits to the head. We're not talking about, roughing the pass. We're not talking about anything that makes that game great. I mean, this is beneath me. 23,000 men have been drafted. Like 26,000 men have ever played the game. And we're sitting here talking about tush push. Seriously, I found myself this morning going, what am I doing? Why am I even debating this? We all know yesterday, we laid it out for you what it was for. This is all about TV and potential lawsuits down the line for players to come back and sue the league. There's no other reason. So we kind of laid that out for you. I mean, that's exactly where this sits. That's why the commissioner's involved. Remember something, just so you know. Anytime the commissioner's involved in a decision to be made, it's about finances, the look of the league, how people perceive the league. It's guarding the shield. That's all this is. So, I mean, the actual nuances of the play, what are we talking about? A goal line play? Can't be more NFL. It's a stupid thing. Really, I woke up and the first thing I tuned on, people were still talking about this. And I'm like, God forbid. I could never sit down with NFL players or anybody that's ever played football and have a conversation that I would start with this. Who's got the best defense? Who doesn't have the best defense? I mean, come on, man. We all know what this is. This comes down to what we said yesterday. TV and potential lawsuits. Plain and simple. By the way, we appreciate all of you coming aboard. Super chats go to the top. Hit the like button. We appreciate that. Battle Royale is on. That will be at 4:30 between Mark Holmes and Philly 500. Jason Cole is in Florida for the NFL owners meetings, or was, so he will come on with us from Yahoo Sports. And our Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, that'll be at 5:30. Xander will make his normal spot. That will be at 3:30. Please hit that like button. All right. We've talked a lot about the replacements. A lot of people in Philadelphia are pretty happy with what you think you have on the roster right now, right? You guys are pretty good with it, right? What you have right now, that you're still going to be a Super Bowl contending team. How many people believe that? Okay, I mean, just not to make a show of that, but I want to point something out to you. How many people believe? Look at it. Absolutely. Yes. Kyle says no. Okay. 100% says Josh. Yes. All right. At the helm? Yes. I do. I believe we're still a contender. I do, but there's a lot of work to do. All right. So let me let me point this out, and you tell me how you feel about it after I point this out to you. Here we go. Here's the sheet. Thoughts on Desmond Watson from UF on the Eagles. AJ, I'll write that down, and I will get to that. I promise. Thank you for the super. Desmond Watson. Anybody from the SEC, including UF, I'm good with. We'll hit on that. All right. So I added this up between Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Oren Burks, Milton Williams. Just in the postseason alone in 4 games, those men accounted for 72 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 4 tackles for losses. You have the players on the team that could go in a run like that, and you feel comfortable that you have players on your team that are going to account for 72 tackles. Here. 14 for Slay, 14 for Gardner-Johnson, Burks 25, Sweat 10, Milton 7, Isaiah 76 tackles and 6 sacks. That's what those 6 men accounted for in 4 football games. You really believe that? You have on your football team, okay? Here's somebody. What's the stat for the ones that are on the team? That's not relevant. I asked the question, Akbar, do you have the players to replace almost 80 tackles in 4 football games? Who, as a collective group, are going to do that? You truly believe that? So we'll ask the question simply here. You have to replace 76 tackles just in the playoff run alone. Just in the playoff run alone. Do you believe that the current roster of the Eagles makes them as talented as 2024? Yes or no? Do you believe the current roster right now for the Eagles makes this team as talented as 24? Look at this guy. Idiot 1. Idiot 1. Come on. We don't know. Okay, fair. We will see. Okay. Okay. If you believe, you fool yourself. Okay. Come on, Mraz. Give it to me, baby. Sills, we had the same question last year. True, but you had these veterans on your team. You have less experienced players this year. Okay? Milton had experience. We signed Bond. Okay. So, Bob, you believe that the current roster right now is going to make the Eagles as good as 24? Yes or no? Yes or no? Simple. Do you believe it? Milton established himself. That's a fair comment. You didn't believe in Bond. I wasn't the only one, nor did the Saints. Hey, that's always a funny take. Sileo, you didn't believe in Bond last year, nor did the Saints. nor did 31 other teams. Hence the contract he signed. So, Lamar, don't point that at me. And it's one story in the 100+ years of the league. So, Lamar, congratulations. We'll see what happens in the next 100 years, that kind of story. Never happen again. You don't have a guy in your team. That's a better question. Do you believe you have a guy in your team right now that you signed that's going to have a Zach Bond year? I don't. I do not. That's wishful thinking. Those stories don't happen. Okay? Number one really was a surprise, but we have no obligation to maintain that rank, which is true. We need to aim for top 10 at least. It's not bad. I say if you're anywhere in the top 15, that offense has got to pick their game up. They got to be better. At least give something in the passing game. Because you're going to need how about this? You're going to need your passing game this year. Where last year you did it. Do you guys agree to that? The Philadelphia Eagles are going to need the passing game because your defense is not going to be near as good. Is that fair? The offense has to be better. How many times last year did the Eagle defense bail the offense out? A ton. All them 3-and-outs, no passing game, dominant run game, one-dimensional. One-dimensional teams don't win Super Bowls unless you have a great unit. Okay? I believe in Vic. Hey, Sue, I'll say one more time to you. That was a great unit a year ago. If Vic was such a great coordinator, why hasn't he won multiple Super Bowls in multiple places or had a number one defense before in the 40 years being a coordinator in the NFL? I heard John McMullen say Vic's the best coordinator in the NFL. How? He's been in the league 40 years, and that's the first time he's won a Super Bowl. The guy in Kansas City's got 4 rings. Had multiple years of number one teams. I mean, 1 year doesn't make a career. Okay? I'm asking. That's 76 tackles that have to be replaced. I think there's a ton of work to do. I think there's a boatload of work to do yet. Listen, do I think that team is still the team to beat in the NFC? Yes. Absolutely. Eagles are still the team to beat because of the way they coach, the way they've been drafting, all the things on how they do business in replacing. They may go up and down sometimes, especially on the defensive side. Let me ask you something here. Let's not do this. So in 2021, Kyle, if you're in here, help me out. In 2021, what was the Eagles defense ranked? In 2022, I believe they were second. And that's how Jonathan Gannon got the job, right? In 2023, that defense was ranked, what was it, 28th? Okay, so, and then this last year, the Eagles were ranked number 1. So you were 19th, 2nd, 28th, and 1st. Look at the pitches each year because of the way you do business. 1 year you had the 20th best defense. Next year you had the 2nd best. Year after that, you had one of the worst defenses in pro football at 28. Last year, you had the number 1 defensive football team in the league. Actually, get this. It's an anomaly. That's not fucking true. In 2021, in the Sirianni year, you were 19th. The Super Bowl NFC Championship year, you were 2nd. 23, you were 28th. This past season, you were first. That's how you do business. And now that you've exited almost 80 tackles, totally relying on this draft and last year's draft, you're relying on way younger players than you did at any time in the last 10 years. So, again, by the way, I'm not actually saying you're not going to have, but you really don't usually have follow-up years where you're consistent because it's kind of a conveyor belt. Now, again, I think you're in better shape this time around than you were in 22 because of the younger players. But still, you've let 80 players go or 80 tackles go from that playoff team that we just saw 3 months ago. My point is, where you are right now on April 3rd, you got a lot of work to do here. You got a lot of evaluation. There are a ton of job openings. You got a corner job, a safety job, a linebacker job, 2 D linemen, backups, all that. And you feel comfortable with the guys. The only reason that you feel comfortable with the guys that you have signed is because you won February 9th's game. That is it. No other reason. Because, once again, that's 53 days ago. The Eagles are completely different. Nothing's changed offensively. What's going to improve in the passing game? How many people believe that the Eagles are going to have the 10th best passing attack this coming season? How many people believe that? That Philadelphia is going to have a top 10 passing season. Seals, I do not believe these players will make the number one defense, but I believe we are in good shape, as I do. Second year with Vic, any decline in the defense will need to be the offset by any increase in the offense. It's kind of what I'm asking here, Bob, right now. Bob, do you think that passing offense, you think they'll be in the top 10 in passing? If they're in the top 10 in passing, 1 or 2 in rushing, that defense will have all year long to get better. But you're going to need the passing game to replace nearly 80. Dude, I'm just going with tackles that you had. So let's take a look at this one here. That was just 76 tackles to be fair here. In 4 games, all those players produced for you. They had a great year. Okay? They had an absolutely phenomenal season. Those players that were knocked off the team. So let's go here. And where they rank here in what they did this year. So you write this down. Darius Slay was the 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. Gardner Johnson had 60 tackles. Darius Slay had 50. Let's go down the list here. Oren Burks had 41. Josh Sweat had 41. 192. Josh Sweat. There he is. Isaiah Rodgers had 30. Milton Williams, 25. Milton Williams, 25. Okay, so right now I'm at 280 tackles. I'm at 280. Not even going to go on. Okay? I'll ask again. Do you feel right now on April 3rd that the Eagles have and believe that the current roster makes them as talented as 2024. And I personally think your offense is going to have to be, passing wise, at least in the top 10, to offset all the losses. Okay? Oh, okay. Let's add this to the equation too. How many people believe that the draft and more free agents to sign are going to make the current roster as good or as talented as the 24 Philadelphia Eagle roster, who Jeffrey Lurie called one of the greatest teams in NFL history? You truly believe that with all the signings on what your owner said, that you can have the equal talent of one of the greatest teams in NFL history? Is that what you're saying? The owner? Do I think that's one of the best Super Bowl playoff rosters I've seen? Yeah. That thing turned into something I never believed. I couldn't believe all the no-name. You know, I know the Miami Dolphins in the 70s have the nickname no-name defense. You know, I know Xander calls it the no holes. Shit, you could call that thing the no-name defense. There's nobody on that team except a couple players. There's two dudes you know. The rest of them were good spark plugs. Not one of them was in the top 5 at their respected position except for Bond and Carter. It was the perfect engine, and it produced the number 1 defense. Shit, the Cowboys have more star-studded players on their shitty defense than you guys do. Shows you what having star power means. You can have all the old pros you want on defense with the Cowboys. Meant nothing. It meant nothing in the end. They stunk. Couldn't stop the run. The overhyped and overdrafted Lazy Smith. You had top draft picks all over Dallas, and you had Pro Bowlers, all pros. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. You had the best engine. That's why, you know, I keep going back and forth with Xander on this one. Albeit, man, Saquon Barkley had a great season. Let's be candid here about this, though. I see Derrick Henry's probably going to get his contract extension. Nobody in their right mind would ever say Barkley was as talented in his career as Derrick Henry. Nobody in their right mind. He played on shitty teams, too. Nobody would ever say that. Who's had a better career? It's not close. Barkley's had one great, spectacular year in his career. Derrick Henry has had multiple. Multiple. Well, he was on the shitty Giants. He was on the shitty Titans. You see who's got the number 1 pick in the draft? By the way, at the end of the day, when you're debating Hall of Fame, if anything comes out of it, Derrick Henry will go in easily before Saquon Barkley would ever be considered. We'll ask a Hall of Fame voter at 5:30 that question, if you don't believe me. Okay? We'll ask a Hall of Fame voter. That one spectacular year and 2 other really good ones. Especially on that crappy-ass Giant team. Okay? I didn't ask you anything. Big for nothing? Saquon, dude, Derrick Henry is a Hall of Fame running back. He's the only player with 4 multiple 1,500-yard rushing years in pro football fucking history. Who are you jacking? That's the quintessential big back, bell cat that you have in your backfield that carries your mail. Are you crazy? Seals, I don't believe the increase just needs to be in the passing game. Continuing to bully teams and win time of possession will limit opposing team shots against the defense until the new pieces gel. Okay, Bob, that's all well and good. But that's not how your finances That's not how your finances are setting up your offense. Henry, 0 wings. What a loser. Well, and guess what you'll do? You'll buy a ticket to his induction into the Hall of Fame. Sills, does Clint Hurtt have anyone he wants at 32? He wants a DT. He wants a DT. He thinks that, again, let me phrase this right. I believe that moving Moro Ojomo to the nose and helping out and putting him in a backup role and having a starter you draft at DT makes more sense. I think Moro Ojomo will struggle at the 3 technique. From film I'm watching, just conversations I've had with him, I think he's going to struggle there. That's a consistent 3 technique. I think he'd be better still in the middle and helping out in rotation and drafting a DT there. Because as I told you yesterday, then you get 3 interior defensive linemen on rookie contracts. And then you can extend Davis. And for the next, until Carter's next year, you'll at least have 3 dudes for the next 3 years under really manageable contracts. They're good players. And it gives you time to figure out what you're going to do at edge. Okay? So that's where I would go. And I've spoken to that to Clint. I mean, I think he's going to struggle playing every down at 3 technique. So I would draft a DT there, and I would get my edge in the second. I would go edge in the second round. Now again, you might be able to do this. Down at 32, you might get your edge, and you might get a D tackle that is going to go in the top of the second round. I might move up for that. Okay? I might move up depending how high. We get storylines for the draft for the Eagles coming up here in a second. So I really think it's how the board is going to fall. I'm praying for 3 quarterbacks to get drafted in the first round. I'm going to explain here in a minute. Okay? Sills, I agree. The finances are not set up for the ground and pound offense, but that ship has sailed. Ground and pound works for this offense. A balanced attack would be great, but it can't be forced. I think you're right, Bob, in the time of possession, because that's going to be critical to carry that defense. That defense has to get time to gel and has to get a lot of work. I'll tell you what, man, last year they did a lot of work when it came to OTAs and such. They're going to have a ton of work here because now you got to build up your backups as well. And you're counting on pieces that have not. Get this. Let's just say this. How many times have you showed up at a new job and you don't know where to go for getting coffee? Or you don't know where to go to go to the bathroom? You have to ask. It's the same thing with a player going to another place. What are you asking me to do here? What technique do I play in your scheme, Vic? What exactly? Remember something. They play press corner in New York. You guys are talking about this kid Jackson rolling in and playing for you? Has he played similar defenses that Vic Fangio plays in New York? How's that guy fitting in? They didn't know Zach Bond was going to fit in. Vic Fangio told you. Shit. Howie told you that. So, I mean, you guys show up to work, and you don't even know sometimes how to drive to work, what turn to take, what exit to get off. You think a football player is going to roll into a defense just because he has the right cab driver, that's going to be a smooth drive, right? That's what you're saying. All right. Don't work like that. What do you think about Desmond Watson? Where would you draft him? We'll do, again, I'll get to this. I have not forgot. I'm asking the question where you are. How are you replacing all these players? You guys were talking about that 460-pound kid, that Gator kid. He's like 6'6". Too heavy to play in the league. He'll never play defense. He'll never play offensive tackle in the National Football League at 460 pounds when you got edge rushers like Michael Parsons. That's not happening. Okay? He's got to lose a ton of weight. I don't care who he is. Okay? Someone wake me up and tell me the Gators had a good year and a great passing game. Wake me up. I might take a 5th rounder or 6th rounder on him. But a guy that's 460 pounds in the NFL, I don't care what athlete he is. That guy's not pass probing, top flight defensive ends in this league who run 4.3. The speed alone of the game, he's not going to be up to it. You might want to make him a guard, but he's got to drop about 100 pounds. Okay? It's 460 pounds. You could do that shit in college. Don't you guys agree? If 500-pound guys were good, they'd be in the league. If you wanted to keep Jordan Mailata at 390 pounds, he could have did it. But he had to lose weight. So when I saw the 400-pound kid, I thought, well, shit. If Jordan had a hard time, I know he will. Absolutely. And get this, too. You're going to ask that guy to play 65 snaps in the NFL, pass protecting? I didn't know the Gators had a great passing attack. Remember, you're drafting people in the NFL to be pass protectors, not just run blockers. Today's NFL offensive tackle, you would better have him as a good pass probe guy, or they're going to do exactly what they did to Mekhi Becton. They're going to make him a right guard. Too heavy. Lose some weight. Mark Schlereth told you. Can't play like that out there, that heavy, and with that kind of feet. I don't think he's got great feet. I think he's got athletic feet. But we're talking about we're talking about Max Crosby's and Khalil Mack people. Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett kind of guys. These guys are 4 or 5 guys off the edge. Come on, man. When a player on D is thinking about what he needs to do instead of just doing it, it costs them a step. That is a huge issue. We need to hope the scheme clicks sooner rather than later. That's high IQ football you're talking there for kids. That's why you take them and you draft from really great programs, because those kids traditionally have been coached well and they've been evaluated and they have spent. If one thing Nil is going to show you guys, it's going to narrow the programs more and more on where the better athletes go. Why? Because that's where all the money goes. Nil is going to narrow down from what used to be 135 college football programs to probably around 35 programs where money is going to be spent and Nil is going to be utilized. And you're going to have top 10. When you look at the preseason right now and where you're drafting from with guys, it's the same group of teams that have been there for 20 years. Why? They have all the money. They have the best evaluators. That's why Howie's winning in the draft. Howie's not going out. The Toledo kid, no doubt, but he had a story. He's a Division I kid that everyone coveted, and the only reason he didn't go D1, I'm talking D1 programs, I should say Elite 5 program conferences, the Power 5, was because he didn't have the grades. or he'd have been at one of the Southeastern Conference programs. Okay? That's right. Tape speaks the loudest. If you're good, you're going to be one of the 23,000 men that have been drafted since 1936, the first year of the draft. This will be the 89th year. These guys traditionally, when you're evaluating somebody, you're evaluating for what you're looking at today. And a kid that's 300 or 460 pounds, I mean, look, that's a project guy that I would take later. I need a guy, if I'm the Eagles, that could start today. Xander said something earlier on Birds. He's right. John goes like this. Well, if you're drafting him, you're going to start him at right guard right away. I'm not fucking wasting a first-round pick on a right guard. Nobody drafts a right guard. Name me one. Who has ever drafted a right guard? Number one. You can't name one. You get moved there. Most guys get moved there. Nobody gets drafted at right guard. When you come out of college, you have, like this kid from LSU. What's his name? Campbell? This guy's got short arms. He'll be a right guard in 2 years. You know where you start? If you're an inside interior lineman, you start at left guard if you're a first rounder. And if you can't make that, they move you to right guard. You can't make it in tackle, they move you to right guard. Drafting a left guard, I get it. And a left tackle, the blind side of the quarterback. Correct. When you look at the top guys, and it says guard, it's left guard they're being evaluated at, not right guard. The majority of the players who play that position in the league today have been moved there or were later round picks. That's the history of the position. 14th pick. He fucking started as a left guard and they moved him. How stupid are you? Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Have the Eagles ever drafted a right guard, number one? Have they? Have they ever drafted a right guard number one? Like in the history of the team. Who? You remember, when you come out of college, you're evaluated to play left tackle and left guard in the offense. You get moved there. Okay, yeah. I mean, the only teams that draft right guard are teams with left-handed quarterbacks. Spectacular take, Bob. That's right. That's why there's very few backup left-handed quarterbacks in the NFL. Why? Because you'd have to turn your entire offense inside out. That's why there's not a lot of left-handed quarterbacks in the history of the game. Whatever. I'm not debating this. Stills, why Walter Nolan play nose tackle? I believe he can be more like Milton Williams, but better. I would put him on the 3 technique too. Okay? Okay, here. You're right, Sills. Lindstrom was a right tackle in college. Thank you. You know what they're doing? They're now looking at all the good players that play that position, but aren't looking at what they were evaluated at in college because they were moved. It's the stupidest stuff. Are you crazy? Fans are stupid. Like, the Eagles have never drafted a pure right guard in the first round ever in the history of your franchise. Like, ever. Kenny Stabler was always asked if they ran to the left because he was lefty. Stabler laughed and said, more to do with Art Shell and Gene Upshaw. Well, that's a great take, too. Charlie, think about this. Where are the best players on the Eagle O-line? Your left guard and left tackle as a combo. Lane's phenomenal. Where's the most interchangeable piece in your great O-line history? It's been right guard. Again, not debating dumb shit with people who are dumber. So let's answer the question. Do you believe the current roster for the Philadelphia Eagles makes this team as talented as the 24 roster? And do you believe there's still moves to make? And the draft will make your roster right now as good as one of the greatest teams of all time? Yes or no? That I thought that I didn't want to say that out loud. I didn't want to put that out there. I didn't know that. But now I know, okay, when Philly drafted Lane Johnson, they had a left-handed quarterback. Makes total sense. Got it. Great job. Great pull, Bob. So they have to, at least in my opinion, okay? They have to, in my opinion, get more out of the passing game. Okay. Once again, dude, first round. Stupidity. Just stupidity. Sills, does the Joe Milton trade tell you that Dallas is moving on from Dak? No. A quarterback in a 7th rounder? Joe Milton? Okay. I mean, what does that tell me? Dak has a no trade. He's got $90 million against the cap. What are Joe Milton? How is that even a factor with Dak? That has nothing to do with Dak. That means nothing. Who's Joe Milton? Joe Milton. Does that have any impact on Dak Prescott in Dallas? Yeah, he's got another guy to get him coffee at meetings. Or he's got another guy to park his car for him. I don't know. What did the Patriots get? I don't know. I thought it was a do shit deal. Joe Milton? Never heard of him. Joe Milton. I mean, you got a guy who's going to have a $90 million cap hit. He makes $60 million. And you're talking about Joe Milton in a 7th round pick. How does that? And Samuel, I'm not picking on you, but you're not the only one. Okay? I mean, Joe Milton. Yeah. Holy shit. Joe Milton. Hey, Sills, did it have any impact on the Cowboys? Yeah, they'll stink worse. Yeah. Joe Milton. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know what's funny? You can say all you want. Hey, Jalen Hurts has got the ring. Guess who wears the money belt? Dak Prescott. Hey, I can promise you one thing. Who wants to wear the championship belt? I think that's pretty cool. Who wants to wear the money belt? I want to wear the money belt. Okay? You give me the money championship belt, I'll wear that bitch. That's fine with me. Would you rather be Floyd Mayweather or Bernard Hopkins? I'm going to take Mayweather. You know why? Because every fight Mayweather got in, it was north of $30 million every time he fought. And get this, Samuel says, why not both? Because Hurts will never wear the money belt. Okay? He's not wearing the championship money belt. Shit, Lamar's going to get up to 65. How you doing? Okay. How you doing? Give me the money belt. Sills, guess what? Jalen's wearing the championship belt. Yeah, I know. Who's wearing the money belt? Josh Allen. Oh, give me that belt. I'll take the money belt. Okay? That's who everybody wants to be in the ring with. Nobody gives a shit about being in the ring with the champion. Who's got the money belt? Oh, Josh Allen? Josh Allen has the money belt to the players. Yeah. Got the money belt. And he might get both belts. There's a better chance of Josh Allen getting both belts than Jalen Hurts getting both belts. The money belt and the championship belt. There's a better chance. Okay? Because he's already got the money belt. How you doing? Money is good, but championships are better. I'd rather have 5 championships than make the most money in the NFL. Look at this guy. What a total asinine take. I'll take the 4 championships. He can make all the money. I'm happy with being a champion. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I hear you. I'd rather be a champion, 4-time champion, than make 400. Who would you rather be? Barry Bonds, who made $35 million a year and has every record on the planet? Or would you rather be Chase Utley, who has a title and is a really good player? Tom Brady never wore the money belt. Never wore the money belt. It's the highest paid quarterback in the league. I think that's the sacrifice, actually, that you have to take to be that and to do what Jalen's doing. I think there's a sacrifice. And I think that's why they're not going to extend it. They're not going to rework his contract until next year. He's probably because of that. How you doing? Yes, sir. I get into this profession because I'm looking to be Joe Flacco and win championships. Yeah, I'm looking to make money too. How you doing? Hey, I'll tell you what you did. What I loved about Myles Garrett, Myles had nothing, and he wanted nothing to do with Cleveland until they parachuted in with $40 million per. And he went, you know, hey, I guess championships didn't mean that much after all. Yeah, I guess, hey, he's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to play here. I want to get to Canton. I want to be on a good roster. All of a sudden, homie floats in and goes, here's $40 million. Oh, okay. Gee, shit. They called him on it. They called Myles Garrett on that. Hey, Myles, you want to be a Hall of Famer? Yes, not here in Cleveland. I want to get to Canton. That doesn't necessarily mean it goes through Cleveland. I have to be on a team that contends. How funny that changed in 3 weeks. Jimmy Haslam didn't even want to meet the goddamn guy. He parachutes in with a $40 million per deal and a bag of money up front. He goes, well, I don't know. I guess it's okay in Cleveland. I guess it's okay in Cleveland. Shit. Thought he wanted to win championships. He ain't winning championships in Cleveland. That's Joe Thomas. Explain to me this. How could you have two Hall of Fame football players, Joe Thomas and Miles Garrett, and you have the worst franchise record-wise in the last 30 years? How you doing? How you doing? Mm-hmm. Hey, that's right. Hey, man, got to have the money belt. Don't forget the money belt. Sills, as a fan, I'd rather have championships. Me too. I don't get the money either. Absolutely. Players want the money. Absolutely. Hey, no, Samuel. I agree. You should want, Samuel, you and even idiots like fuck Jay. That guy. Hey, I get it. You want championships. Players want money. There's the reason why you negotiate. There's the reason why A.J. Owens kicked his heels up. And, what about St. Brown? Who's that? How about St. Brown? Who's that? Who's that? And they parachute in, give him money, and, they gave him his pacifier at $35 million, and he was good with it. I like it. I like the deal. It's good. Okay? Hey, Chuck. That's right. Championships walk. Look what the Eagles did. They booted out guys in their early 20s. Hey, money talks. That's what ripped your defense apart, didn't it? Hey, Chuck, did money rip your defense apart? Wasn't a lack of production. I just pointed out 76 tackles in 4 games with those 6 dudes. Isaiah Rodgers, Oren Burks, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, C.J. Gardner, Slay. All accounted, those 6 players counted for 76 tackles and 6 sacks. And you booted them out over money. If money doesn't matter, it sure does to the Eagles. If it matters to the Eagles, it matters to the players. Doesn't it? Or Josh Sweat has stayed, had $5 million in Philly instead of the 26 he got in New England. Don't be stupid. Your defense got taken apart over money. Matters to Philly and ownership and your general manager. Why wouldn't it matter to players over championships? You had a generational defense that you constructed, found. You did think about this. All the things that you did right a year ago, you took apart. You found Oren Burks. You found Isaiah Rodgers. You found Zach Bond. You found Darius Slay. You found all these guys. And then you decided to go money. We're going to have to take it apart because of money. I see. Money matters to ownership, but not players. How do you add that up? It mattered to Howie. It mattered to Jeffrey Lurie. He's been talking about it. And by the way, this Nick Sirianni contract is going to be funny to watch. Making him the highest paid coach in the sport of NFL football would lead you to believe that he was the most important person in the building when it came to constructing and coaching that team. Andy Reid makes $20 million because he brought Brett Veach in. Nick didn't bring in Howie. Andy brought in that entire coaching staff with Steve Spagnuolo on it. Drafted under him Patrick Mahomes. All of that under his watch. From organizationally building like he did in Philly to where you're going to try to tell me you think that owner and that GM is going to pay him and make the impression and give the illusion that that guy is the most instrumental person in the building? No fucking way. No way. I'm going to be curious to see what they land on. I mean, doesn't the owner go, whoa, whoa, whoa? We've won Super Bowls without this guy with our same formula. This guy makes $7 million now. Why would I pay him more? For what? I did this. I did this. Not Nick. I can do it again. You don't think they think that? Let me ask you that. You see, this Sirianni contract is not that they don't want him. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting how much is that worth to them? How much do you think Nick Sirianni is worth to Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman? Like I said, I'm not telling you. How about this one? Do you believe that Nick and Howie, hey, Bob, because most of the people in here, Abe, you too, are idiots when it comes to this conversation. Do you believe that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman could hire another coach if he followed along the same procedures as Nick could get the same results? Do you think they think that? I'm not telling you I believe that. I'm asking you, do you think they think that? How many people think that the ownership group thinks that? How many? Okay? So what's that worth to you? You're going to pay a guy $20 million that you think you did most of the work, drafting, coaching hires, paying contracts. How about this one? Are you going to pay Nick Sirianni more than Howie? General managers don't make more money than the head coaches in the league. You understand that? So you're going to pay Nick more than Howie. Nick Caserio is the highest paid GM in football. He makes $6.5 million a year. You're going to pay Nick $22 million? Come on, man. He ain't more important than Vic Fangio. Hey, once again, I'm not telling you that they don't want him, but at what price? Here again, the owner comes in and goes, listen to Howie and the owner, how we do business, our culture. Nick's part of he even said it. Nick's part of our culture and really has done a great job in our culture. Okay? How much is that worth to you? Personally, for me, I think Nick has been a good mouthpiece for what they want. But what's that price tag? I heard Xander say that the guy in Jacksonville, I think he did get $14 million, 13, 14, somewhere in there. That guy makes double what Sirianni makes. He's with the Jaguars. $10 million? You're going to pay a guy with a 740 win percentage $10 million? That's all you need. Hey, Abe, if they float in and give Nick $10 million, they're using him. $12 million? That's a fucking insult. What are you talking about? There's no way. Here, let's take a look at this. 2024 highest paid NFL head coaches. I can't wait to see this contract. You know what? They may not make it public. They may not make it public. Okay? They just may not. Andy Reid, $20 million. Sean Payton, 18. Mike Tomlin, 16. Jim Harbaugh, 16. Sean McVay, 15. Kyle Shanahan, 14. John Harbaugh, 12. Sean McDermott, 11. Okay? Still, Sirianni is the music man or the fiddler on the roof. Okay? I get it. Where are you? Get this. Where are you? Andy Reid built the Chiefs and the Eagles. Sean Payton's retooling and rebuilding the personnel office and the coaching staff. Mike Tomlin runs his own shop. Jim Harbaugh runs his own shop with Eric DeCosta. Sean McVay is a play caller. Kyle Shanahan. Hey, you want to know one thing? Get this. Andy Reid, play calling head coach and an organizational builder. Sean Payton, play caller, fundamentally building the entire organization in Denver. Mike Tomlin is absolutely in charge of all hires and personnel decisions in Pittsburgh. That's the benchmark of what Steelers are. Sean McVay, play caller, head coach, works with Les Snead and Kevin Demoff. Kyle Shanahan, play caller. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin run their own shops. Dan Campbell is another one of those players. He makes 11. I think he's going to come above Dan Campbell at $11 million. That's where I would pay him. Somewhere in there, 11, 12. He's not a play caller. He's not the CEO of his business. And the Eagles don't believe that he's not a product of... Here, let's do this. Do you think the Eagles believe that Nick's a product of their system? Or do you believe that they think Nick helped make the culture and is the culture in the building? I mean, do you believe that they think Nick's a product of what they've been doing? Yes or no? Says Nick is built to be replaced because they don't want another Andy Reid or Chip Kelly situation. He'll get 12. That's where I think. I think they land on $12 million for him. Hey, and if you're Nick Sirianni, let me take and go on the other side of this. Aren't you pissed off about 23? Aren't you pissed off about how they were thinking of firing me and how they took some of my autonomy away on assistant coaches and what have you? Are you not pissed off a little? Or are you just accepting of that? Okay? He's the winningest coach. Okay, he's the winningest coach in Eagle history. Okay, Mr. International. So you believe that the Eagles think Nick is the most important thing that they'll do when it comes to hiring a head coach and paying that head coach, and that paying him the most money in the league is because he's been the most accountable for the success of the team. You think they think that? Not happening. Dude, guy at San Jose State makes that. Okay? Why is Sil saying Howie or owner wanted to fire him? Get this. Senor's sitting here trying to tell you, and even John McMullen said after the Tampa game, and 23, I don't know. I don't know. Living in denial. This guy lives in denial. Anytime he doesn't want to hear something, he makes bullshit like this up. Like that stupid shit comment that Howie said. Yeah, we don't go after anybody with, accusations against women. You fucking put a contract in front of Deshaun Watson. Talk like that. Don't be stupid. Holy shit. Most of you don't get that these people in the NFL are professional liars. They are professional liars. They can't tell all the truth. You know why? Because eventually they got to make tough cuts and tough decisions. Okay? Sills, I love comparisons. Compare the Eagles to Hendricks Motorsports. Nick is not the crew chief. Howie is. Nick is the jackman. I think he's more than that. Okay? I could see Nick being the guy that's sitting there on the headsets talking to the driver. And you got Rick Hendricks above that. That's the guy who runs it all. Rick Hendricks is Howie Roseman. I could see that. Or Joe Gibbs. And your crew chief guy is running the team. I got that. Nick's a crew chief guy. He's not Rick Hendricks. How much are you paying this guy? Okay? This means nothing. This means nothing. Andy Reid might go down the greatest coach in NFL history. This means nothing. And Reyes, you are the Philadelphia Eagles because of Andy Reid. You are champions because of Andy Reid. You have a culture because of Andy Reid. You have a hiring practice because of Andy Reid. You have a scouting department because of Andy Reid. Those last 3 years mean dick in the landscape of his importance to Eagle history. It's a non-conversation. Yeah. If you go with M. Reyes' comments here, I'll turn that around. And you let the greatest coach in pro football history go because you fired him. No, but then you start adding the family bullshit. Just like you added the 3 seasons here bullshit. 12 to 20 million. Again, if you're looking from the outside and you're not covering the Philadelphia Eagles and you're looking at Nick Sirianni, okay? And you see that 740 win percentage. And if you're Nick and you've kind of, last year, maybe you were a little bit pissed off of how the whole thing ended. Of all the naysayers, and then you're 2-2. Remember something, over 17 games, the Eagles were like what? 8-9? With the meltdown from 23 in the first 4 games. Nobody was singing his praises then for the emotional intelligence. Right? And you can't tell me or convince me that owner and that GM are, let's do this. How important is he in our culture? I think that's how they see him. Sills, let's flip the script. Okay. If I'm Nick's agent, I asked Laurie for a deal like Warren Moon got. He would never be the highest paid, but guaranteed he'd always be in the top 5. That means you're renegotiating contracts every year. You think Howie's going to go for that bait? I don't know. Hey, Bob, we're going to find out what they think of the guy. Thank you very much, Jeff the Bone. Please hit that like button, guys. But for the record, I'm not suggesting here in any way that they don't want the dude. Okay? You know, Nick's a great coach, this guy says. Funny, I think Nick is a product of his assistants around him, just like every other coach. Okay? Xander thinks Nick's getting $21 million. So obviously, Xander thinks he's the most important, and the Eagles think he's the most important person in the Philadelphia Eagle organization, and that he should make more than Howie. Highest paid general manager in the game right now in the NFL makes $6.5 million. So Howie's going to get $25 million a year? That's what you see the owner doing? So the owner's going to parachute in, bitching about money, letting players go on the defense, but he's going to turn around and he's going to pay two guys $46 million between the head coach and the GM. Never happened. Never happened. Not a chance. Care what anybody says. Not a chance. Ever. So let me put it to you this way, as simple as I can. How many people believe that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman think that that guy is the most important person to the success of the team to make him the highest paid head coach? That his importance on that team justifies him making and being the highest paid guy when he makes no personnel decisions, no play calling, no hiring of assistants, but you think that guy should be the highest paid guy and he's not a product of their system. I'm telling you, I think there's a good little debate here because his track record speaks to it. I'm asking you, you believe. So let's make a bet right now. I'll make this bet. I think they pay Nick $16 million per year. That puts him right around where? That puts him near McVay, who's a contemporary, and Jim Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. There is no way he makes north of Sean Payton and Andy Reid. That's 20 and 18. No way. I believe they'll float in there between 15 and 16 million. Somewhere there. Sean McVay and Andy Reid, they build the culture. Nick hasn't built Dick. Because you know why? You heard the owner say it the other day. Nick has been great for our culture. Ain't his. That guy ain't making more money than those other guys who are bringing people in to change the culture around. Nick jumped into an already great organization and became a product of the environment. Don't you think they think that? Or no? Oh, I get it. So Nick has added so much more when they were talking about his head in the bye week. Yeah, all right. Okay. Yeah, sure. All right. I guess so. If that's how you want to look at it. Bro, 10 million? The guy at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz, makes 14. Fuck are you talking about? Why is Sills talking about other people's money? No, I'm talking about how they look at Nick. Give a fuck about the money. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about how they look at him. Hey, remember something too, senor. Pats on the back are nice, but people look at you for who you are by how much money you make in that league. Not by pats on the back, son. Sills, you think emotional intelligence is worth much? I'm thinking 12 to 14. Look, dude, no. You can't dispute what he's been in the building for. He's got to be somewhere in the conversation. But he's not more important. You think that guy's as important to the organization as Andy Reid is to Kansas City? Or that Peyton is to Denver? Not happening. They don't look at him like that. There's no way they look at him like that. Emotional intelligence. This guy goes, Nick wins. No, the fucking Eagles win. And the Eagles have won for 25 years. Doing the same shit. There's no way Eagles will pay him 16, 18 because he's deserving of that. I'm not saying that. Then how he will re-up, making him the highest paid GM at 13. Okay? So you're going to double his salary. I think he's a little south of Caserio. You know what's funny? I had to do some really deep research on how much GMs make. That shit's not out there a lot. I had to call the NFLPA. Howie's right there. I think it's $6 or $5.5 million a year he makes. The guy in Houston makes the most. Okay? Here, look at this. This is a great call here. Stills, $14 million puts him right with Shanahan. Fuck, I'd pay him more than Shanahan. Now, Shanahan is a play caller. He's got a job. Okay? I mean, but Nick, he plays the good fiddle. Like I said, I am not suggesting in any way that they don't want him. But I'm gonna make the suggestion it'll be 16, because you know why? He's not the most important person, and far from it. Let me ask you this. Who was more instrumental in the Eagles winning the Super Bowl last year? Vic Fangio or Nick Sirianni? Who do you think? And how he hired Vic? Who do you think was more instrumental in winning that Super Bowl? Nick over Vic? You must have forgot Sean Desai. Sills, or Matt Patricia. Sills, I think what's more important is Vic is asking Vic who he wants to replace him when he decides to retire. I think he's 5 years from that. He's 65. I think he's got a couple more years in there. Does he want Clint, Parker, or King? Those guys will be gone by the time he's 70. Make the assistant head coach. It gives him more money and harder to go after if you want to do Clint or Bobby King. That's a good call right there if you want to do that. But Clint's going to be a D coordinator. Let me ask you this. The most historic run offense in pro football history happened this last year with Jeff Stoutland and his guys. Who's more important, you think, in the building? And by the way, Jeff's been in the building prior to Nick even showing up. Who's more important, you think, to the Eagles? Jeff Stoutland or Nick Sirianni as a coach? Who do you think they value more? Jeff Stoutland or Nick Sirianni? Or excuse me, Stoutland or Sirianni? Who do you think they look at? You guys bring Stoutland up and Vic. And Vic, I trust. You guys don't say in Nick, I trust. You guys don't say, and Nick, I trust over Stoutland. Every time I bring up who's going to replace this guy at right guard, you go, trust Stoutland. Okay. Hey, who are you going to replace those 76 tackles just in the postseason with? I trust Vic. I don't hear you guys saying I trust Nick. That's $21 million? Come on, man. Come on, man. By the way, Xander said that the Eagles set the trend when it comes to finances. I disagree with that. I think they set the trend on how to do contracts where they get the maximum, where they don't have to spend a ton of money in the structure of their contracts. I mean, Devontae Smith's contract was a groundbreaking deal because he utilized a fifth-year option. But that's no contract to write home about. For the company, it is. For the player, he got taken about $20 million. The NFL Players Association looks at that deal and goes, yeah, that's not what we're after. Hey, it's good business for the Eagles. Congratulations, Howie. And the player was okay with it. Look here, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, big money guys, right? Howie cut his deals with his two receivers for $100 million less. That's great for the organization. That ain't that great for the Players Association. Yeah, groundbreaking for the league, not groundbreaking for the players. Yeah. Hey, by the way, good for him. That's his job. His job's not to not take advantage of players. That's his gig. So wait a minute. Hey, Nick deserves this, so we're going to do this because of what you saw with Barkley. All right. They're going to make him a $22 million guy, and they're going to pay Howie, what, 13? So Nick's more important or valuable than Howie. No, it's the position, Sells. Oh, so in Philadelphia, the head coach is more important than the GM. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. Great question. Sills, would you play for the Eagles today? Absolutely. Tell you why. If you're drafted anywhere in the top 5 rounds, you're going to get 3 years with the practice squad and with the way that they think to make it in the league. No matter if you suck in your first year or matter if you're great in your first year. That Philadelphia Eagle team is going to give you an opportunity to sink or swim. You bet. Sink or swim. Yes, sir. It's a great place to get drafted. That's a great question. I haven't really been asked that. Is the Philadelphia Eagles here? I'll give you guys a little bit of this. Here are the places you don't ever want to get drafted. Philly's one of them. You want to be drafted there. Okay? You want to be. Do you want to be drafted in Buffalo? They don't traditionally pay a ton of players. And when they do, they only pay the offensive guys. I guess the Dolphins. Not really. I don't like Stephen Ross. I think he's a shitty owner. The Jets, absolutely not. Would I want to play football in New York for the Jets? No way. Let me just show you what I've named her. Buffalo, maybe. Miami, no way. The owner blows. The Jets, no. New England, right now, no. Baltimore, yes. Pittsburgh, yes. Cincinnati, no way. Especially if I was a defensive guy. Cleveland, no way would I want to play there. Houston, I would. I think they're turning the corner here with Nick Caserio. I do. Browns, Jets, Raiders, Giants, worst ones. Let me go down the list here. Thank you, by the way, Leon. So far, I've got the Eagles, Philly, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Houston, I would. Indianapolis, no way. The Jags, no way. Tennessee, no way. Kansas City, yes. The Chargers, no way. With the Spanos family? The Broncos, yes. They pay. The Raiders, yes. Because they pay if they draft you. Philly, absolutely. Washington, yes. But it's new. So you got to keep incomplete on that. The new ownership is turning the corner. Cowboys. They do pay. But I just hate the owners, man. And I don't mean that personally. The Giants, not a chance until you get a new GM. The Bucks, I would. Atlanta, I would. Carolina, no way. David Tepper, New Orleans. I like the Benson family. Okay, I do. I like the Benson family. I'd play in New Orleans. The Rams, I would totally play with the Rams. The Seahawks, absolutely. Arizona, no way. The Bidwells and the 49ers, I would. So here's how many teams I pick. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philly, Seattle, Kansas City, San Francisco, Houston, the Raiders, Washington. No, I'm going to pass on Washington. Tampa, Atlanta, Detroit. Yes, that's 11. Minnesota. I like Ziggy Wilf. 12. Packers, 13. Bears, no way. 13 teams that you would consider playing for in the NFL right now. Philly's probably one of the top ones. Why? They believe in player development. And the reason I say to Atlanta is because the guy who owns Home Depot, they do a job when it comes to paying their players when they draft them. You guys are, I'm not talking about winning. I'm talking about getting an opportunity as a player to make it in the league. Get this. It's not what I'm talking about, dude. I'm talking about players getting chances to make clubs and make money. I'm not talking about, dude, before you could start counting Super Bowls, you got to make it in the league first. You got to learn to swim. Then you can start talking about championships. When you step into those NFL locker rooms, those chairs are already accounted for. You got to try to get one. I was fortunate to get 3 of those chairs. Bro, those chairs aren't handed out. I mean, they just don't hand them things out. But when you got an organization that's winning like Philly, they can have time to sit there and develop those players. Dude, Cosmo, it's a great question. Sills, would you play for Philly? Absolutely. Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's a great place to come and play, especially if you get drafted. Okay? It's a great place. Yes, I do believe this right here. I do. Sills, how big should the roster be expanded to when they add the 18th game? Not only that, Samuel, but you're going to need to add another bye week. You're going to put 18 games in, and you're going to try, and then you're going to put that 18th game in. If I'm collectively bargaining that, for me, I want another bye week that's also instituted in there because one bye is not enough. Okay, you need another buy, and I would say probably expanding the roster five more spots. And I'm talking going from 53 to 58 for game day on Sunday. Go to 58. Okay? No, I would not. No, I would not. No, I would not. And players don't do that. Okay? No. But I want to go somewhere I know the owner actually fit to hire the right guys and build a winning organization. Well, those 13 teams that I've named to you, those are probably the 13 best owners. Dude, I believe Jeffrey Lurie wants to win championships, not just win. I think Jerry Jones just wants to win, kind of. I mean, we just went over this list. I mean, do I think Stan Kroenke wants to win? Yes. Do I think the ownership group in Seattle wants to win? Yes. Arizona? I'm not sure. San Francisco? Kind of. I think the Yorks. One thing I'll say to you about this, Jed York is not Ed DeBartolo. He is not Eddie DeBartolo. Okay? Jed York and Denise are far from a guy who built that organization into one of the greatest dynasties of all time. And I think 49er all day, if you're in here, you can attest to that. Jed York and Denise DeBartolo York, they're kind of decent. Same way Virginia Hallis, McCaskey. He was terrible in the ownership of the Chicago Bears. Now you've got the McCaskey guy coming out talking about expanding and moving to other sites outside of Chicago. You know, when George Hallis was alive, that team was embodiment of Chicago. Now it's a cash register. And I give Jeffrey Lurie a lot of love here because he does sound like he gives a shit. And I believe him. And as you can tell, I don't land on the side of ownership for anybody, but I believe him. And you know what I liked about you know what the most compelling conversation that I liked about him the other day when he was addressing the media for 40 minutes? He came out, was as honest as you could be. Hey, I've been to dinner with Milton. I've been to dinner with Josh. I really like these guys. But this is the league. This is what it is. This is how we do business. Sometimes these guys can't stay and they have to go on. I love those guys. No hard feelings. It's the league. It's the most honest I've ever heard an owner ever be in the landscape of how the NFL and the Eagles are run. That was like one of the honest things I've ever heard. An owner that I didn't know a lot about because I don't really see him a lot. He's going, I really love Milton. I like Josh. I liked all the players. It was a special group of dudes. This is the league. This is what it is. And that's as honest as you can get. Hey, that right there makes me want to play for that owner even more so. Because he knows, hey, dude, it's really not personal. It's like a Godfather line. It's not personal. You know, I mean, this is just business here. By the way, we will have the Battle Royale at 4:30. Jason Cole live from the owners' meetings, or actually the owners' meetings have wrapped up. He was at the owners' meeting, so we'll get him on. That'll be at 5:30. Xander's going to join us in a couple minutes. Hey, guys, I keep finding old bone crusher pictures in my girl's phone. Yeah, well, how about this? Those were the days, JD3. Those were the days, my friend, when the bone crusher came off the top rope. How you doing? All good, Brandon. Good stuff, man. We appreciate you guys here. Do me a favor. Please hit that like button. Yeah, I liked what Jeffrey Lurie said. And by the way, like I said, too, on the topic here, I mean, when you're drafting, there's no question. Now, look, like I said, too, April 3rd, here we are. It's funny, you didn't want to answer it. Do you believe the current roster for the Eagles makes them as talented a team as a 24 roster when the owner came out and said it's the greatest team maybe in Eagle history? And do you think the draft is going to change that? Or free agent sign is going to change that? Ray Lewis and Reed took discounts to win Super Bowls. That's why he ended his career, Arthur, in Houston. Nice try, kid. He took more money in Houston. Ray retired after he won the Super Bowl MVP. How you doing? Hey. You know, I heard John McMullen and Xander talking about the legendary Tush push this morning, and I almost vomited for the final time because it's so unbecoming. If you've ever strapped an NFL helmet on, which you see some of them ones up there, I still got to get my Lions one. You're talking about pushing and tushing, and this is so unbecoming, man. Honest to God. What are we talking about here? Hopscotch? This will be the 89th draft in NFL history in 21 days from tonight. And you're talking tush push. Okay. Hey, I get it. He's not wrong. You're tuning on any show right now. That's all you have. It's so beneath me now. That conversation is beneath me. It is. But I'll tell you one that ain't. Xander was trying to tell me the other day about my boy Joshy Poo and Milton. Well, I added it up. 4 games, 6 dudes, had 76 tackles, 6 sacks, and 8 TFLs. And you think you have the guy in Uche Kuche and the best Jamaican bobsled team in guys' names I've ever seen as a collection of dudes that's going to replace 80 tackles, 6 sacks, and 8 TFLs in only 4 games. Isaiah Rodgers, Oren Burks, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Gardner Johnson, and Darius Slay. Man. So let's ask my boy here. Without further ado, let's bring him in. The co-host of Birds 365, Big Z.
What's up, Big Sales? How you doing, brother?
How are you doing? Okay, I'm going to need a piece of paper for your ass today.
All right.
Hold on here. And now look, I think you and me are on the same page with one thing here. That Nick should be paid great money. But I'll ask you the most important question, my young friend. Do you believe the owner and the general manager believe that Nick is the most instrumental thing in what has made that team win by making him the highest paid head coach in the league? Do you believe they believe that he's the most important to Andy Reid, to a Sean Payton, who are actually building cultures in there because they need to? Kansas City didn't do shit for 47 years before Andy showed up. Shit, you didn't either. In Philly, I think he lands on $16 million, making him north of Kyle Shanahan and Mike Tomlin.
That's pretty good.
I think he's somewhere in there. Where do you fall on this?
Well, look, I don't think they're going to pay him based on what you just said. They didn't do that with Jalen Hurts. They didn't do that with A.J. Brown. They didn't do that with anybody else. All right. So the one thing about the Eagles that I've said is they've been at the forefront of every financial milestone this league has had for the last 10 years. They paid Carson Wentz the top paid deal after one good year from Carson Wentz and coming off an injury. They paid Jalen Hurts after one good year, the highest paid player in NFL history. They paid A.J. Brown, the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. Jalen Carter will be the highest paid defensive tackle. Nick Sirianni, the reason I said $21 million isn't because I think he's better than Andy, isn't because I think he's better than McVay, isn't because I think he's the number one reason for success. It's because I think that's the way the Eagles do business. And I wouldn't surprise me. Now, coaching is a little different, right? Because the players' contracts are largely structured. Even when the cap goes up, a lot of times a quarterback will make a set percentage of the salary cap. People don't always look at it like that, but that's kind of how it works. Like, 13% might be the quarterback or whatever it would be, with that.
Those numbers go up every year.
Right. So it's a little more structured. Coaches, not every deal is reported. You don't hear everything on it. So
I couldn't find GMs. I couldn't find GM salaries. I had a call.
There's nowhere you can find Howie's salary. I mean, how much more?
I heard it's 6.5. I heard he's right near Casario in Houston.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. But the reason I think you're going to give it to Nick is, how do you not? He went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years.
Ask yourself, do you believe that they think that, though, that he's the reason for it?
They don't think that. But again, I don't think that's going to be what stops them from paying him. I think you're right. I think
Barkley ran for 2105. Barkley ran for 2,005 yards on his sweat and back. Do you think that the ownership, and I know you've answered it, the ownership and the head coach or the GM look at Nick and go, hey, man, we can't get where we are without him. We got to make him the highest paid guy. He built this culture. He built this coaching staff. He's instrumental in the draft picks, like you see with Andy, with Veach in Kansas City, or you see what's going on in Denver right now. I mean, remember something, too, to get Sean Payton in the building. Remember what they had to do? Denver had to give up a first-round pick compensation to get his ass up there. Do you think that they look at him like that? Get this. You're right. It's warranted you pay him that. But to me, we're going to find out what they think of him.
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, and by the way, $16 million is pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't be upset. I was joking with the people in the chat. They're going to pay him 21, and I'm going to laugh at you all because I think they're going to make
16 makes him third.
Yeah, 16 is a pretty good deal, man. I mean, you could even make an argument. Look, if you want me to play devil's advocate, I tend to be on Sirianni's side because every time he seems to get criticism, the team just continues to win football games. I know he's not the only reason, but I do think he's a part of that. But if you want to play devil's advocate, you could easily argue for less than this. Mike Tomlin's got 18 years of success, 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl win, and tenure. Okay, proven track record over a long period of time. I think he negotiated his deal last year. I think it came in around $16 million. So you could make an argument. Hey, has Nick earned that reputation in the league? He hasn't, but that's not how it always works. I mean, you could easily have said when Jalen Hurts got his deal, hey, Jalen's been great. He wasn't better than Mahomes. He wasn't better than Allen. He wasn't better than some of these other guys. Remember, this is pre-Super Bowl, that he got paid $51 million a year. So I just think it's the way they do business. But I don't know. You are talking about a lot of money for a coach. Maybe
3 years, $50 million is what we're talking here.
Yeah, that's heavy for a coach, man. That's heavy for a coach. It's crazy how big the salaries are getting for everybody, but that's heavy. So it's going to be somewhere in that range. We'll see.
You want to hear something crazy? That money that I just mentioned, 3 years, $50 million, that makes you 8th in the college football rankings on highest paid college football coaches. Just to show you how expensive coaching is today at both levels.
All right.
Dude, they're the 27th highest paid coach in the college football ranks makes $12 million.
Yeah, sure.
So, all right. So,
wait, don't you think that changes the deals a little bit though? Like, think about how much money college coaches are making. So options become more when you're the cream of the crop.
That's why they're raising.
Right. Sirianni's the cream of the crop right now because he's coming off a Super Bowl. That aura is still there on him. So he's got more options than most coaches do. I wonder if that plays into it. But the other thing is the Eagles can go to him and say, okay, Nick, you don't want to take our deal? Go ahead, leave. Let's see how successful you are with a new roster. Let's see how successful you are in a new city with a new owner, with a new GM. Let's see. So they have some leverage too. It's going to be an interesting thing to do. And that's why I think you're right. It's going to show you how much they like Nick.
Is it 3 or 5 years? Because I think that'll tell us a little more.
I think it's 5. I think most coaches' contracts are 5. And I think coming off a Super Bowl, it's a lot easier to stroke the 5-year deal. 3 would be maybe if you
almost $90 million.
I think 3 would make sense if he lost the Super Bowl this year. And you're like, all right, you've shown me a lot. You've been in 2 Super Bowls, but we got to get this thing done. I could see 3 there. But with the win, I think that gets him those extra 2 deals, 2 years.
I think it's 3 at 50. I think because they don't want to be tied. I think if they go 3 at 50, I think they're going to let you know, we really respect the job that you've done. Job well done. Here's 3 years. We don't want to get too
It might be
tied in.
3. Remember last year, last deal Howie signed was 3.
Yep.
Because he was not lined up with Nick.
That's right.
And then he lined him up by giving him a 3-year deal. But I'm going 5.
You're going 5. Okay.
I'm going 5 because I think continuity when you have success is meaningful. Like you don't need to change when you have success. Why would I change the National Football Show when the National Football Show has a lot of success? No, you double down on it. Why would you change out the coach or the GM after 3 years when you've had this level of success? I don't think it makes sense. So I'm going 5.
Maybe what he does is he ties it how long he's going to remain running the organization. I mean, Lori's 70 now, right?
73.
He's 73. That'll make him 78 years old after 5 years.
And then
maybe they all bow out
and
together.
Then in comes Julian. And Julian says, goodbye, goodbye. Let's bring in our people. We got some analytics.
Doesn't it make sense? 5 years you give Howie. 5 years you give Nick. He's 78 years old. He bows out. They all bow out together. And young Julian Lennon gets Laurie gets the team. And he gets to take the band himself.
I rue the day, Sills, when we have a coach in Philly that's not a football guy. It's coming. We're going to have an analytic guy soon. You're going to have a suit-looking dude soon. I promise you we will. Might not be for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, but we'll have him soon.
Mike McDaniels is coming to coach the Eagles? Somebody like that?
Oh, God. I don't know what. He's like a hipster stat guy.
Any guy that drives a car that's called Cube. I don't know.
What's that?
It's like one of those little tiny cars that looks like a cube. You can plug it into your light.
Is that like a story? I've never seen this.
No, it's like one of the little cube cars, CUBE. It's like built like a little box, and you can plug it into your lighter in your car. I mean, it's like that's what he drives. It's like the little cube car.
He's not driving a Nissan Cube, is he?
Yeah, that's what he drives. And he shows up with a Hello Kitty bag on his back.
He's a little goofy for me. I mean, I'm one of those people that I like differences in people. I think people who are quirky are interesting. I'm more interested in quirky people than a run of the mill guy. Like you said the other day, I don't want to be the best. I want to be unique. I love that. I love that about you because that's exactly how I feel too. I want to be unique. I'm not interested in make, you crown me, but I want you to know I'm different than other people in my own way. So Sirianni has that a little bit. Mike McDaniel really has that. But hey, I'm not hating on it. I'm hating on McDaniel because he's not successful.
I'm just, like I said, I don't care about the money either. Xander, I mean, if you're looking at it from 35,000 feet, a 740 win percentage, Jesus Christ, man, what are we talking about here? Yeah. And 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 years. On the optics of it, you pay him the most. But at the end of the day, you look at him and you go, hang on here, man. That organization doesn't look at head coaches like that. They look at them as part of the process. Don't you think?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, and look, the Eagles are right about that too. Right. Like, let's be clear.
They have been.
Like right. I just said, right. I mean, they have leverage in this because they're going to be like, all right, Nick, like, let's see what you like. If you really want to walk out of this organization because you want an extra $5 million, all right, be my guest. Let's see how you do in the open market. Right. I mean, and they're going to win that bout. So
grass ain't greener.
What's that?
Grass ain't greener.
No, it's not greener. There's no way.
All right.
Maybe you're right. Maybe 16 million where it comes. I'm still going to take 21.
All right. How about this here now? Folks, follow along with Big Sills here. 14 tackles. 14 for C.J. Gardner.
Oh, God.
25 for Oren Burke. Tackle for loss. Sack. Josh Sweat. 13 tackles. 2.5 sacks. 3 TFLs. Milton Williams, 8 tackles, 2 sacks. Isaiah Rodgers, 10 tackles, 1 pass deflection. Those 6 players have accounted for 76 tackles in 4 playoff games with 6 sacks and 7 TFLs. You truly believe that you have the personnel that's going to replace 80 tackles, 6 sacks in championship playoff football on the defensive side that is currently on the roster right now?
Look at you. I see 70% is already on the team. You got to make up 30%.
I asked you about replacing 80 tackles in 4 games.
I say 7. What's 70% of 80? 60?
Okay. So you believe that right now on April 3rd, let me get back to my topic over here. Xander Krause, here it is.
Oh, this.
Do you believe the current roster for the Eagles makes this team as talented as the 2024 Philadelphia Eagle, as Jeffrey Lurie said, one-of-a-kind team? Do you believe that your current roster right now makes them as good as they were a year ago?
No, absolutely not. All right. And I love Jeffrey Lurie's response to this. Well, we were one of the best teams in NFL history last year. It's going to be hard to be better than that. Great response, Jeff. Great response, Jeff. No, you're not going to be as good. And here's the thing that I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but from my perspective, wouldn't you approach each year, Sills, as instead of me trying to be as good as I was last year, can you isolate each year and say, this is a new team with new motives, with new goals, with new problems, with new shortcomings, with new locker room camaraderie, with new everything, and just, you got to reset. Obviously, you have players that come back, but I more view it as, I don't know if I want to be exactly what we were last year, because the NFL is not like that. All right. It doesn't work like that. That's why you don't have a lot of repeat winners. In the last 20 years, there's been 2 Super Bowl repeats, in the last 2 decades. So it doesn't happen often. Not many have made it back. I think 3 have made it back and lost the Super Bowl, including the 24 Chiefs, who just lost to yours truly, the Philadelphia Eagles. But I more view it as, how can this team get the most out of who they are this year to be at the top of the league? Now, I know the easy thing to do is to compare it to last year's team, but I do think you're going to fall into a little bit of a trap where you're not going to be that team, man. That team was historic. That team was number 1 defense in the NFL. That team shut down Mahomes and Reed in the Super Bowl. That team had the best running season in the history of the NFL. Like, if you try and recreate that, all right, congratulations. You're going to come up short every single year. And you're going to leave yourself setting up for failure. So my perspective is more about resetting for a year. What can you accomplish this year? But where you bring up a good point is, part of the reason you won last year is because you had some of those special talents. You had some of those things that happened. How can you get as close to recreating that as possible? And do you have the guys in the room to do that? Right now, I'd say no. And something that happened yesterday, I was surprised you didn't hit on it. Did you see Vic Fangio was at the Phillies game, and he spoke to John Clark,
NBC Philly.
Yep, and he talked about the losses, and he talked about we got to make do basically, and I'm going to be on Howie's ass to replace these guys. And when he said that, he said it more from we haven't done it yet. So I don't know if he likes or dislikes the guys they've signed. But I certainly don't think he's ready to be done. I mean, he talked big about the draft. He said, we got the draft coming up, man. Let's hope we get a couple of guys there. So he's in there. He's talking to Roseman. He wants more, Sills.
I'll tell you what I love about Vic Fangio. He's got low expectations on everything but coaches for high results. He goes in there thinking, I don't know what Zach Bond is. I don't know who Devin White is. I don't know who Nolan Smith is. I don't know who any of these guys are. And he doesn't put a roof on your you know what he does do? He puts a floor on what his expectations are, but he doesn't put expectations on players at all. That guy, he just goes in there thinking, okay, we're starting at ground zero here. That's the conversation that I'm taking away just by paraphrasing what you said that he said, and I agree with him 100%. You see, isn't it funny? Vic says it, and he echoes what I say. But yet, somehow, when I say it, it sounds different. I don't know. Everybody, I mean, I don't know how come when I say it, everybody gets some pennies in the pocket.
Tone. It's something about that Sileo tone that gets people going.
You brought something up that's really interesting, and because you said about year to year and how you look at and how you should go about building something. Well, let's take a look at that in the era. 2021, and I think you're talking about identity. I would say this, 2021, Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, the identity, in my opinion, of that football team that year was learning. Learning to win. Because it was a completely different thing from 2020. Doug had been wiped out. It was learning to win together between Howie, Nick, the owner, the quarterback, the team, the roster. That was one of the most important years in where you are today because you began the process of learning how to win. 2022, holy cow, kind of in a way caught you off guard. I would say your identity exceeding expectations. Drafting, coaching, assistants, quarterback, everything. They exceeded expectations. 2023, the identity fell short of standards and what they had set and what they wanted to accomplish. And their standards did not meet what they had set out at the beginning of the year coming off that 22. Because you got to remember, learning to win together, exceeding expectations, falling short is 23. 2024, they combined the 21 season, the 22 season, the 23 season, and 2024 was delivering of expectations.
It's a great take by you. It's exactly how it's going. Now, what's the next step? In my opinion, the next step is the hardest step.
It is maintain,
right? Now that you got over the hump, how do you create consistency? Not only consistency, but elite consistency. Consistency
I think creating these levels to what you're hitting on. Learning to win together. Exceeding expectations. Falling short. How many times has Nick said we learned so much from 23 and the years previous? Fulfilling expectations. You're right. What's this 2025 team going to be? Maintaining success?
Right.
Exceeding expectations again?
Or,
you know what? How about this, Xander? You may win 12 games. You may get to the Super Bowl. You could lose in the NFC title game. Don't you feel if you get into that Final Four with what you and how much you have lost and how much is to come still, don't you think they're still fulfilling prophecy that this is the team that's building for continuity and consistent success? And the players that go out and play for us, we're not going to fall short like 23 again. I'm going to be curious to know what the identity of the 2025 team is going to be with all the losses on the team.
Man, I don't think anything you said there is wrong. I mean, I think everybody, whether it's football or your own life or your own career, I mean, you go through different phases of life that teach you different things depending on where you go or what you're trying to accomplish. So the inevitable truth is there will be a theme on the year. Will it be they learned how to maintain? Will it be they fell back a little bit because they didn't maintain properly? Will it be they figured out how to exceed what they created? I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go, but they certainly have an uphill battle. I mean, repeating as champions is a hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do. It's unlikely. Even if they signed back Milton Williams-Hills and signed back Josh Sweat, we'd probably still be sitting here saying, boy, how the hell are they going to it's going to be hard to repeat. That's just the nature of the beast. So you got to prevail. You got, and it's an interesting point. Like what will be the theme this year? What will be the learning point? point for the team this year. And by the way, you are infusing a lot of young talent. I know that the young talent you have now, I feel good about because I think they've experienced more than most young players do. I mean, even some of the college guys, I mean, some of the Georgia guys, Bama guys, these dudes, I know it's not the same, but winning championship football, that's a mindset in a way. That's a lifestyle. That's a culture, and they have that. And now you've brought in Quinyon, you've brought in Cooper, you've brought in Moro Jomo, you've brought in other young guys, Jalix Hunt, that have that as well. How do you maintain that now? How do you infuse that into the new additions on the team? You're bringing in Adoree Jackson. Guy's lost everywhere he's went. You're bringing in Josh Uche. Now he's got a little bit more winning. You're bringing in Azeez Ojulari. Guys used to losing 15 games a year in New York. How do you infuse those players with championship DNA?
There's a couple things here with that, what you just said. I tried to explain this and put it in the simplest ways that I could. If you've ever started a new job, how many times you get in your car and before you show up to your first day of work, you drive the route because you don't want to get lost on your first day and you don't want to be late? Or when you show up to work, you ask for your first day, where's the bathroom? Where do you get coffee? If people think that guys are going to parachute in from other programs that have been whacked and all of a sudden going to have the same magical thing that happened a year ago, you got a whole different mindset of dudes.
Right.
The chances of all of them doing that, Xander, are so stacked against you. Now, you have the formula. You know the formula. You have gone through the process. Because, again, 2025, you said it. Is that the year of new faces stepping up? Is that going to be the year of the replacements?
See, I think it's got to be the year of your younger stars becoming superstars and becoming the guys that, Jalen Carter was
living up to expectations.
I wouldn't even put him in that category.
No,
how about
living up to expectations, you would say.
Right. And you know what, even more than that though, right? Like we're talking about multiple Super Bowls. Okay, Jalen, like the cat's off your back. You already got one. Now you want to be like Brady. Now you want to be like Mahomes. Now you want to be like Joe Montana. Like, how do you win 4? That's going to take a different version of you. That's going to take a better version of you. And I don't say that with any disrespect. I think everybody would assume that. So it's him to me. It's AJ. AJ, we won it all last year, and everything was all fine and dandy. But you want to repeat for a championship, we're not going to have time for some of those antics. Now, if it's all the purpose is all to make the team better and to become your best version of yourself by January, that's all fine and dandy. But I think there was a little bit extra there. How do you get rid of that? Saquon Barkley. Okay, you came here, you were the new guy. Everybody had high expectations. You shattered those expectations. Now what?
Young man, you bring up some good points, and sometimes you just don't continue to expand on them.
I know you.
I'm going to bring this one up to you that you just mentioned that was spectacular. When you said Jalen, you said Brady, Aikman, Mahomes. We're no longer talking about Lamar, Allen, Burrow.
Yeah.
You're not in that room anymore. You're now fighting to be in a different level. When you mention Montana and Brady and Aikman, and you're talking about Hurts, that's rarefied air, dude.
Well, he's not there yet. That's the thing. How does he get there?
That's right. But look at Lamar's level is getting there. He's looking to go further.
Right.
You know how, get this, the chances of Lamar and Josh Allen making it to that pinnacle are by far more harder for Jalen Hurts to get into that Aikman, Montana, and Brady room. Do you realize if he improves 1%, that may put him in that room? That 1% will be the most difficult time in his career because now these expectations are not just about winning the game. It's about elevating your resume. It's a different conversation.
It's a different approach entirely. I mean, I think it was Bob in the chat who put it, here it is. And I think this is a good comment here. I mean, it's like the rat chasing the cheese. I mean, or the mouse chasing the cheese. The obstacle when you win is always how do you keep focus when you're chasing a goal? It's in your sight line, right? It's dangling in front of you. When you catch it, finding a focal point is tough. I think that's a good way to look at it, right? What's the new objective for the team? And then how do you keep 53, 70 guys locked in on that? That's where I come. That's where I bring up Jalen Hurts. I mean, Tom Brady, he didn't have to speak, bro. He was slamming his tablet on the sidelines on a throwaway game in week 6, when they're 5-1, because he's pissed off that they're not achieving the level of success he wanted. That's a different caliber of player, of goal, of upside, of, pinnacle. It's a new pinnacle. How do you reach it? And I think Jalen will, but what's the learning curve to get there, right? I mean, he might have to experience that a little bit.
And something else I'm going to bring up here that you brought up that I'm going to expand on. The Eagles, why you guys are so comfortable. You know why you're so comfortable? You guys are looking at the process that Philadelphia has instilled in the organization. But the one thing that you and all Eagle fans don't put into the conversation, and I'm not saying you, but most people from Eagle Land put into the conversation, Tesla is a great example. Tesla has some of the greatest managers and greatest business acumen people that are in that company because of the owner, on how the owner hires. He hires the best engineers, like with SpaceX, that he possibly can find.
Yeah.
What changes those companies? The environment, things around the team, the salary cap, how much you're going to pay, players excelling, players not excelling. That's the environment around your business model.
Right.
That's, you guys look at the Eagles and say, look at our business. But Jeffrey Lurie talked about it. Your culture is your business model. Look at their blueprint and how they do things, and look at how they're outlined and business plan. The Eagles have a business plan like any other business. What changes that? It's the environment around them, the draft, free agency, contracts, excelling, deselling. So that's why when people look at Philly and they look at 2024 and they look at 23, you guys are putting more faith in the process and in the business plan than you are actually on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's been successful, but I think you still have to go with the trends. Look at what you did in 21. Your defense was ranked 20th. Your defense in 22 was ranked 2nd. Your defense was 28th in 23, and your defense this year was 1st. These pitches up and down are environmental, and what happens to how he does business and how the Eagles, it's a trend, Xander.
Absolutely.
So that's what I look at more, and how they do it. I don't look at 1 year and go, well, this is kind of what you've done for 4 years. You've had themes. Every team had a different identity. Would we not agree since 21?
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one piece of this puzzle and I think your puzzle's perfect, but the one piece I'd add is personnel. Like when you're going for something that we're not talking about competing with the other 32 teams in the NFL.
No.
Fans need to realize that. We're now talking about
competing
creating dynasty, doing something that is for only the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the population. And what I mean when I say personnel is you have to all be on board. Not only that, you got to have the right guys in the room. That's why you just brought up some good company examples. You could have a guy in there who's smart. If he's not willing to work, if he's not willing to do what they need you to do, they fire his ass. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I'm not saying this is the case with him, but I'm using him as an example. Hey, you were a great player in the field, but all that off the field bullshit, that mentality that you have, that approach, that's not going to work. And I'm not saying that's true with him. I'm just using him as an example. But the personnel in the room is going to be important. It's going to be important to have the right guys who are understanding of where you are and where you're trying to go. Because if they don't, every little piece, on most teams, it'll be all right. But when you're trying to accomplish something that 1% of the 1% do, every little detraction is massive. All right, you can put a microscope on it.
Guys, do me a favor, hit the like button. We'll read your super chats. Also, we will have Battle Royale, Mark Holmes, and Philly 500 at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to bring this up to you, too, since you just brought that up. John Morgan gave me a line years ago, Xander. I think you'll like it. Never invest in the horse. Invest in the jockey, because the jockey's going to take you home.
Right.
I mean, a great jockey, a great leader, a great businessman, he's going to make the right hires, and they're going to put the right people in. Look at the Eagles have a great example of this. You have a history of it. When you don't put good coordinators, Nick fails. When you don't put good people in proper places of importance, no matter what company it is, you know, when you don't put a good host at a particular place,
right,
that shit's going to fail, or it's not going to be and live up to expectations. You know, one of the things that
or if you're not bought in, Sills.
That's right.
That's why I just brought up the personnel thing. You could get the most talented guy in the world. If he ain't bought in, it's not going to work for what you're building.
Let me tell you one thing, and I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes on how I see me and how I've seen my broadcasting career. Do you know that I have to be one of the most cost-effective jobs or host in the country? Why? I produce my own show, I get my own guest, and I don't have a partner. Always remember one thing about what I do, okay? What I do is this. I make it so, Xander, that I become important to people because of all the things, and I sell my show. So to me, I'm just not a host. I have all things around it, and that is caused buying in what you're saying. Playing a 5 technique, playing a 3 technique, maybe being an edge, coming inside and wanting to play. They have players on that team and people in that organization. Would you not agree that Nick Sirianni is 10 times more flexible than what Doug Peterson ever was?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. They're different. They're different personalities.
When you say that, that's probably the secret to his success, is that Nick is not going to sit. He's looking to get to yes. Doug was looking to get to his yes.
Yes, I agree with that. Nick is a lot more swayable. Yes. He doesn't have as hard of, roots in the grass, if that makes sense, where he wants it his way. He's definitely, I think he gets that a little bit from the owner. I think the owner does a pretty good job at, being receptive to new ideas. Now, he's got his way, but I think he's been pretty receptive to new stuff. I think Nick is a little bit of the same. I think that's a good comp.
What's your biggest concern before we get to the supers here? What's your biggest concern right now on April 3rd? Let me give you mine here first. Do you think the draft in a move? Here, let me read this to you. I want to read you something here. I was going to save this, but I'll do it with you here. Here's my draft takes. Will the Eagles trade the 32nd pick, in your opinion? These are draft stories heading 21 days, 3 weeks from tonight. Will the Eagles trade the 32nd pick, in your opinion? What do you think the chances of them trading that pick are?
I think it's very high. I'd put it at 70% chance, maybe 80.
Okay. What position will the Eagles take at 32? Biggest need or best player?
It's got to be a combination of the both. I know you don't want that answer, but it has to be.
No, but it funnels it down to going like this. This guy may be the best edge, but if he's the 8th best edge and I've got the 2nd or 3rd best DT, don't I fall on the DT?
Is different. Yeah, I mean, DT, you've taken the DT. But if it's the best safety on the board, what are you doing?
Okay. How about this one? How high would you be willing to have the Eagles trade up? You've got to give something up if you trade up.
You're going to have to give up a lot to trade up.
Correct.
You're going to have to give up a lot. I'd say 24, 22. That's even probably high. It's going to – I don't think people are like – that's a lot. Like, you're going to have to send a lot.
You're going to have to send a 2.
Yeah,
move up
maybe
there.
even like if you want to go top 20, you're sending another one. They're not doing that. So I think that's out of the equation. 25 or 26 might be a better number, Kokorski, but yeah, that's right around that range.
Okay. Will the Eagles trade the number 1 pick for a player at the level of an A.J. Brown in the league? Could you see a Eagle trade like they did for a player and sending that to a team? Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson. I don't believe it because of the money that he wants. But could you see them trading that pick for a top flight player?
I don't think it works. I don't think they want to spend the asset that way. I don't think they want to pick up a big contract like that. I don't see that at all. I'm gonna put that very low. I don't think they're in a position to do that. That's not where the team is right now.
Will the Eagles draft a quarterback or a wide receiver higher in this draft?
I'm going to say wide receiver because we've talked about some of the changes that might be coming in the coming years. I think they're going to maybe prep for that, a little draft proofing for the future with a wide receiver selection. I think they feel pretty good about the quarterback. You still have Dorian Thompson under for contract now for 2 more years. You have Tanner McKee. I think they'll take a quarterback, but I think they'll take him late, and I think they'll take a wide receiver first.
Would you trade that 32nd pick for Trayvon Walker?
Ideally, I'd love to say yes because he's worth more than that. But is your team in a position to do that? Think about it. This team needs players. Not only do they need players, they need cheap production right now based on what they have coming. And they've already signaled that with letting guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat walk. So are you going to pick up Trayvon, pick up a $32 million a year contract and roll? Like the Commanders, where they are as an organization, that's a move you make. You're trying to get there, right? You're the Eagles. We just talked about maintaining. I don't think that's the best way to maintain, and I don't think the organization believes that's the best way to maintain. So I'm going to say no.
See, to me, it's DT down there because you would get 3 guys working off of a rookie contract, and if you give up the 5th-year option or take the 5th-year option on Jordan, you get him 2 more years, and you got 3 dudes cost-effectively with high talent playing on rookie contracts in your defensive line, and you could slide Nolan out to the 3 technique and keep Moro Jomo, in my opinion, as the swing guy. I think they think of him that way. I think he's going to be given an opportunity to start, but I think his role of being a swing tackle and putting Nolan out there to replace Milton, I think he could play that. I think he's got good feet. Let me go here. How high are you going to go in the draft to replace Dallas Goedert?
It's a good one. I mean, I think that first pick is the catalyst for this, right? Like if you stay put at 32, you're probably looking at, I'd say, 3rd round for tight end. If you trade back, I could see them using a second because remember, you're going to have your second at 64. You're going to have another second from your trade back, and then you'll probably pick up an additional 5th to drop from 32 to, let's say, 40 or wherever you would drop to. Now you have 40, 64, and an extra pick. I could see them going tight end, and that's with that second round pick if they did that. Now, if they really love somebody, somebody brought it up this morning. I think it was Jeff Kerr. If Colston Loveland fell to 32, do you like that player enough? Because I think Tyler Warren is out of the equation.
Yes.
I don't think you have the assets to trade up to get him.
I think he's a top 12 guy.
I think he's out of the equation completely for the Birds. So you're looking at Colston Loveland on down. How high do you value them? That's what it's going to come down to, but I still don't see it.
Could you see them doing this? Sending Goddard to the Chargers for one of those 5s, Goddard and one of those 5s for the Chargers' 2nd-round pick. Would you be good for that?
I'd be good for it. The Chargers wouldn't.
The Chargers need a tight end.
I know. So maybe they would, but I don't see it because they're talking about a conditional 5.
Remember where Loveston's playing. Guess who recruited him?
Yeah, but people are talking about a 5th.
He believes in tight ends. Jim Harbaugh. Okay. I mean, I mean,
You're going to send a number 2. They're not going to send that, though. A 2?
maybe a 3. No, I'm sending a 2 and a 5.
We send Goddard in a 5, you said, right?
2 and a 5. I get a second round. I get the Chargers' second round pick.
Maybe.
Which is down there in the 20s.
Maybe. I don't see that, but I think the Chargers are a logical landing place for Goddard. I just don't. I think that's a little rich for what the Eagles would get out of him. I mean, they're talking about a conditional 5 getting for him. So if you trade him and you send a 5th round pick, you might get back a 4th, maybe a conditional 3rd, maybe. And that would be a future draft. Like, by the way, you're probably not going to be able to trade Goddard before this draft. So any draft pick you're talking about is already next year's draft because the cap just doesn't make sense to move him before the draft. So he's complicated for that reason.
He is. I mean,
that's why any move Sills you make in the draft to get a new tight end, you're probably not going to be able to include Goddard in that move.
I again, how high then in the draft are you going to address the tight end position? Are you going to land where I'm at, second round?
I just wonder. I mean,
especially when you need edge and DT on that side of the ball. Remember,
and if you
just got through pitching.
Here's the other thing: Howie's been honest this offseason. Everything he said has kind of come true. All right, in terms of showing you, hey, it's going to look unconventional at first, and then he said something interesting. He said, when we get to the draft, it's going to start to look again like Eagle offseason. So, drafting a tight end when you have holes on the defensive line is not Eagle-esque. I know you need a tight end, but I'm sorry, the way this team is built, they'll allow a hole at tight end a lot longer than they'll allow a hole at defensive tackle or defensive end. So that's where I have a hard time going this high on tight end. I know it's a need, but guys, I don't see it over defensive line. I just don't.
You're right. Now, I'll end it on this here with Goddard. Then we'll read the supers here. Please hit the like button. Guys, you know, Xander, let me ask you this. If you're the organization, I mean, you paid Goddard $15 million. He's been hurt every year for the last 5 years. Is it Goddard being a little unreasonable here to not redo his deal for the faith that they have had in him and how much they like him? I mean, if I were the Eagles, I'd be like this. Bro, you're hurt every fucking year. You're always hurt down the stretch. We can't build a game plan around you. You're unreliable, and yet we still pay you.
But to be fair to him, like, just from the player's perspective, and you're good at seeing the player's perspective, he's going to say, fuck you. I don't give a shit that you had those problems with me. I got one chance left to make a contract, and you want me to give up $8 million?
No.
Yo, dog, kick rocks, all right? And I can see that. I mean, the guy's got one chance at a big contract left. He's not going to say, hey, maybe your guys are right. Let me take a big pay cut. No, there's other teams out there who are willing to pay him that money, I'm sure. So he's going to bet on that, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, excuse me, I forgot myself there for a little bit. I was sounding.
Hopefully we get Holmes in here. Holmes texting me still. Sorry, I'm still with my mom. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but
yeah. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Let's read some of these super chats here, Xander.
Yeah, let's do it. I forget. What are our topic before that draft? What were we talking about? I had something, one more thing to say. I'm blanking on it now. I'm pissed. It was a good comment. What were we talking about right before we went to the draft?
We were talking about companies and culture.
Yeah,
about how
what was I about to say?
Were and how, again, I brought up Tesla and proper management.
Yeah, shoot. I'm blanking on what I had, but it's all right. Brian Pumper checks in. What's up, Pump? One thing I do know, the off seasons after the Super Bowl are absolutely abysmal. Howie is 0 for 3. Hopefully this guy didn't fumble again.
I think they're set up different, though, Pump.
Way different.
They're set up different with the younger players this time. If you looked at 17 and 22, look at the guys that left. Javon Hargrave wasn't a homegrown guy. Okay, Kaiser White wasn't a homegrown guy. I know that TJ Edwards was a UDFA and he's kind of a homegrown guy, but they didn't really put the assets and the equity in drafting him or even paying him. He excelled. He overachieved. It was one of the greatest overachievers. And personally, him in Chicago, if you go back and watch him, I'll make this point to you right now about TJ Edwards. I think he's a good player, Xander, but I don't think he's a great player.
No, he's not. He's not versatile enough at that position. He's good at what he does, though. Kyle Kokorski checks in. Sills and Xander, I think Steelers draft Jackson Dart at 21.
I think there's 3 quarterbacks. There could be. Do you think Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart could get into the first round.
I mean, you're talking to a Bama guy who told you at the start of the draft process, no freaking way on Jalen Miller. I watched that guy lose so many games for us. Every big moment, it felt like he shrunk. But people have brought up good things. I mean, good thoughts about it. And he's got crazy athleticism. He does have a big arm.
Played in a big conference.
Played in a huge conference. Has intangibles that some people like. I think a team's going to take a shot on him. Like, I think Mike Tomlin would look at him and say, all right, let's polish this guy up. I think he could be somebody. I could see that. Now, I wouldn't take him there, but for the sake of the Eagles, we want as many quarterbacks. I've been saying the Eagles should be running propaganda right now, gassing up Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Shadur Sanders, all of them, because the more quarterbacks that get taken, or if they don't get taken, the more valuable our number 32 overall pick comes, because then someone could trade into it and pick up a quarterback at that spot. So I think you got to be running the propaganda machine. But if it were me, I wouldn't take them. But desperate times call for desperate measures. Wouldn't surprise me if those guys were taking them round one.
So my favorite line so far out of the owners, we're going to get to Philly 500 here in a minute. My favorite line so far out of the owners, out of Howard Roseman, and also out of Jeffrey Loria. Okay, you know what I like? I like emotional intelligence. And the other one, Howie going, we don't really do any business at all whatsoever when it comes to people who have any kind of misconduct.
Yeah, that was fake.
Women.
What a fake news
you
comment
dropped the contract in front of the agent for Deshaun Watson.
No, but here's the funniest thing about Eagles fans, and I love Eagles fans. I'm one of you, so don't get on my case. All right. They bought that shit hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I saw it over my Twitter feed. Look, that's my GM. I'm like, dude, are you guys dumb? This dude was ready to send the farm for Deshaun Watson a couple of years ago. I mean, come on. All right. What he told you is Mike Green ain't worth it. But if it's Deshaun Watson, it's worth it. Quit buying that bullshit. Come on, man.
Hey,
I don't really care that much.
hey, when you win the Super Bowl, bro, you can say anything you want.
True.
When you the champ.
Yep. No doubt about it. I think we got all the supers.
All right, man.
I thought this super was hilarious. Hey, guys, I keep finding old Bone Crusher Sileo pictures in my girl's phone. Come on, JD. That ain't good.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, Hoss, because if you see Big Sills now, man, don't worry. She'll come running back home to you. How you doing? Xander,
all right, Sil, appreciate you, bro.
Great work up, by the way, okay?
Thank you, man.
You got it. All right. We're going to be waiting on Mark Holmes. Hey, guys, just so you know, Mark Holmes' his pop passed away, and hopefully we're going to be able – he's with his mom now. So I'm still going to kick his ass with his Cowboys. Hey, Mixon was traded for a 7th. Woo! Hey, Cowboy Nation, here you go, baby. Winning the offseason. I don't even know who Joe Mixon – I thought he was a running back with the Texans. I don't even know who this guy – anyway. So, wait, I've got to now, as we bring in Philly 500 here, I want to know if Philly 500 has the emotional intelligence to be able to hang. Hey.
Not according to my wife.
Hey, emotional intelligence, Jeffrey Lurie said. I thought I heard it all after that one when he was describing Nick Sirianni.
Not according to my wife. The champ has dead emotional intelligence, according to my wife. So, yeah, who the hell knows? But the champ is here. The champ is here. We are champions of the world, baby.
Absolutely.
Where's Mark Holmes?
He better get his butt in here, man. Hey, by the way, Tush Push stuff. Here, let me give this to you. Me being an ex-NFL guy, this is so unbecoming. I mean, any guy who's ever laced it up, and if you're an Eagle fan, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about Tush Push shit? So I'll ask you, do you think the Philadelphia Eagles could have won the Super Bowl a year ago if they don't have that play?
Yes. Yes. They're going to win it anyways. Yeah. Barkley might have broke the touchdown record, though. I'll say that. I mean, how many times did we have the ball at the 1-yard line? So if you don't have the tush push and you're not doing a quarterback sneak, Barkley's scoring a lot of touchdowns. But no, the tush push is not why we won the Super Bowl.
Don't you agree? Instead of maybe winning 14 games, you win 12, but I still think you win it.
I don't think we lose any more
Because some of
games.
those close games, drives were extended because of that play.
But I think that the Eagles could have done, and this is just my opinion, I
Okay.
think they could have done a quarterback sneak just as effectively. I really truly do. I think the quarterback sneak would have worked just as well with Hurts, and I don't know. I think the whole thing is really pathetic, though. I will say that.
You think? I mean, talking about it. And by the way, what I loved about Jeffrey Lurie was that he said it right. I mean, could be dangerous with no intel. Don't you
Right.
agree that this thing comes down to the NFL doesn't want that play on the television screens, and potentially
Yeah.
they could come back because of CTE conversations down the road where players could bring that play up with the brain trauma. I mean, other than that, they're making this shit up right now about trying to stop that play. Are they not?
No, they definitely are. And what's sad is the NFL and the commissioner, they don't want it. But then you get these teams that look like babies. They look like they're frustrated they can't stop it, and they want it out because they think it helps the Eagles and not them. The fact that you had a vote, you were supposed to have a vote, and you didn't have the votes, and then you canceled having the vote. So because you didn't want to lose, that tells you that they're going to find a way to ban it one way or the other. And to me, that's what's pathetic.
They're going to ban the next meeting in May. They will ban that thing because they'll get the addition. You know how they're going to do it? They're going to frighten the other 8 owners by saying this is going to come down to player safety and CTE claims that players will make. And that they're not going to get it that the play's not aesthetic enough on TV. But what they're going to do is they're just going to scare the other 8 owners. And what I don't like about it is that the commissioner's the Pied Piper on this.
Right.
I mean, you've got the number one guy that's involved spearheading this.
Right.
And it's the commissioner of the league fighting against the Eagles, which I think he should absolve himself from. I mean, how are you sitting here doing that, going against one of the owners of the league because you're afraid potentially down the line 20 years from now, somebody could file charges? I don't get it.
No, it's pathetic. The whole thing's pathetic. And, I just keep thinking about Saquon Barkley in that Green Bay game where he takes a knee and slides, right? He didn't want to rub it in. He wanted to be classy. No, you run that shit up their ass next time, all right? The hell with that bunch of babies. Did nothing. I have no respect for that team. I think a lot of these teams aren't thinking about what the commissioners think about. They're thinking about, we can't stop it. We don't like that they do it so well and we can't. I mean, what about the Buffalo Bills, right? You have their head coach come out and say, he doesn't like the play. He wants it banned. He does it second most to us. He fails 3 times in the AFC Championship game, and now he don't like to play. If he's so morally worried about their injured, why does he run it on his team? He doesn't have to run the play on his team, but he does. So they're all full of crap. I think this is a case where you got the league going up against one team. That's
absolutely. How about this right here? The Arizona Cardinals are making tight end Trey McBride the highest paid tight end in the National Football League's history with a 4-year, $76 million deal per the agents. Now we have to wait until the deal comes out. I'll ask you, is Dallas Goedert good as gone?
Fine. He's gone. I don't think.
That's a $20 million a year deal just about.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he's staying. And I felt like that, especially after the owners' meetings. But I think it's a mistake, Sills. I think it's a mistake unless he's planning to hold out. I do. I don't understand this idea where we have to create these holes that aren't on your team. And now you're going to create a giant hole at tight end. Okay, you could draft somebody, but you tell me a second and third round tight end is going to come in and be ready to play? I don't know.
I don't think it's that deep a position. So let me ask. Let me throw this at you, Mark Holmes. We hope that he's able to catch up. He's with his mom right now. His pop passed away, so
yeah,
that doesn't mean I'm not going to kick his ass over the non-movement of the Dallas Cowboys here. Don't kid yourself here. But I'll ask Philly this here. So Darius Slay had 14 tackles in the postseason. Gardner Johnson had 14. Owen Burks had 25 and a sack. Sweat had 13 and 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams had 10 tackles and 2 sacks. Isaiah Rodgers had 10 tackles. These 6 players accounted for 76 tackles, 6 sacks, and 8 TFLs. Do you currently believe right now on your team, do you believe the current roster of Eagles makes this team as talented as that 2024 roster? When you've got over 80 just in 4 playoff NFL games, 80 tackles and nearly 6 sacks gone. You don't.
No, they're not as talented right now, as talented or as deep as they were a year ago. That's the deepest team I've ever seen by the Eagles. However, my thing is this was all going to have to happen. This has to happen in order to be able to be good years down the road. So I really look at it like there was an emergence of some guys that contributed, especially in the playoffs, that I think you got to trust the whole process of development, and you've got to give them a chance to play. But no, we're not as talented right now.
Xander told me a little bit. I guess Nick was at a Phillies game, and Nick said that he was asked a question by John Clark from NBC Philadelphia, and he was like, "Hey, all these replacements." I'm paraphrasing here. I'm going to be all over Howie in replacing these guys, which would lead you to believe he doesn't believe that he has the guys right now that are in. I think those guys are going to get all opportunities. But when he spoke to John Clark, now it could have been just, again, because it's at a game, what have you. I think you got to get more context in it when it's in a reporter type environment, when he's sitting there behind the mic instead of sitting in the seats, down at the ballpark. But to me, he doesn't seem to think right now that he has the players in there yet. Or if you want to go one further, he has a lot of question marks on what they have in the building right now.
I think there's definitely some question marks. I think from my perspective, okay, I think that the defensive line is better off than people think. I really do. But I think you've got a problem at safety. I think you've created a giant, gargantuan hole at safety. I think you've got depth issues at linebacker, and you've got another corner that you just don't know what you have. So those are 3 areas that concern me more than the defensive line going into the draft right now. So he could be saying, speaking about certain positions. And then if you trade Dallas Goedert or cut him, then now you have a position at tight end that you have to fill. So, I think there are definitely some holes that you got to be concerned about.
How about this, Philly? Nick Sirianni's contract is up, and there's no question he's had success. But let's go further in how you and I see Howie and the ownership.
Okay.
Right now, currently, the highest paid guys in the league, Andy Reid makes $20 million, Sean Payton makes 18, Mike Tomlin makes 16, McVay makes 16, Jim Harbaugh makes 16, Sean McVay makes 15, and Kyle Shanahan makes $14 million. Andy's a play caller. Peyton's a play caller. It's Tomlin's room. It's Jim Harbaugh's room. He's a play caller. Sean McVay's a play caller. Kyle Shanahan's a play caller. Do you believe that the Philadelphia Eagles look at Nick Sirianni to make him the highest paid head coach in the league and look at him and say, he is the most important person to the process of what we're doing here and how we're winning games, that we're going to make him the highest paid coach in pro football? Because how they pay him is how they see him. Do you not agree?
Kind of. I think that they will make him the highest paid coach, but I don't think that they think he's the most important thing. I think they think
you're going to pay him more than Howie?
I'm just telling you what I think they're going to
pay him more than Howie?
Than Howie Roseman?
Howie makes $6 million. Highest paid GM is making $7.5. Nick Caserio in Houston.
What's the highest coach make?
20. Andy Reid.
Yeah, I think he's going to be up there.
So, but here's the difference. Andy's building that KC culture. Sean Payton's building that Bronco
Yeah.
culture back up.
I
don't
get it.
think that Nick was
I
part
get
of the culture that they've built
No,
there?
of course he is. And the Eagles think the same thing. The Eagles think that the culture is the most important thing. But paying Nick the most money in the league is, to me, it's justification. It's Jeffrey Lurie's way of saying, see, I was right letting Doug Peterson go. I was right. We did the right thing and brought the right coach in by paying him more.
Yeah, but that's more
it kind
about
of
his
establishes.
decision. But that's more about his decision making instead of it being right with Nick. Because let me say this to you. How come I hear this all the time? How come I hear this? You believe, and even you said it, you believe that Vic Fangio and you believe in Vic retooling the defense. I don't hear anybody going, hey, I believe in Nick helping the defense get better. Or the number one running attack in the history of the National Football League. Everyone believes in Jeff Stoutland and what he'll do with the right guard position and how they've been able to run the ball. Nobody in their mind would ever think that Nick was the most important coach in the building last year to the Super Bowl run when Vic Fangio and Jeff Stoutland were in the building.
I agree. I agree with you. But the way it's going to play out is he's going to be one of the highest paid coaches. Look, what are you going to say to him? If you're Nick Sirianni, what are you saying? I'm
saying they're going to put him at 16. They're going to pay him around, I think they're going to pay him 3 years, $50 million.
Okay, and what would that put him in terms of the
17 and a half? It put him third.
Yeah, I'll say that he's going to be top 3, top 2.
He'll be making more than Tomlin. But
here's the thing. I think the way the Eagles think, I think by paying him all that money and saying he's the the fastest winning coach and best record to start as a head coach, that's justification that their whole system works, that what they do is working. And I think that's why they're going to pay him. And look, yeah, Nick doesn't call plays and things like that. But, whatever, dude, these guys play for him. And they like playing for him. I don't know what to say. But if the Eagles don't make him at least the top 3 highest paid coach, I'd be shocked.
They're going to pay him for his emotional intelligence. That's what they're going to pay him for. Okay. All right.
They're going to pay him for it. But they're going to pay themselves.
They're going to pay him.
You understand? They're going to take the lap and saying, look at our smart decision. Made him. We have the second highest paid coach in the league.
So they're going to pay him $21 million a year,
right,
just because they want to look right.
What's $21 million? This guy wipes his nose with $21 million.
That means he's going to be making 3 times the money that Howie makes.
Look, you tell me, really, in all honesty, what coach is more deserving than him?
Vic Fangio and Jeff Stoutland.
But they're not head coaches. What head coach right now to you is done a better job the last 3 years?
Who's been the one coach since 2017 that has been the one consummate to the offensive line and how that team is built in the identity?
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
Nick
I
Sirianni.
agree. And I'm sure they pay him a lot. I don't know what he paid him, but I would assume he's making a lot of money to stay with the Eagles through 3 coaches?
3 coaches. That's right.
So he's getting
a beautiful gift from Chip.
Yeah, it is. There's no question about it. But I'm telling you, this guy's going to make a lot of money. You're going to be shocked.
I am going to be because
I do think it's a way that they look at it and they say to themselves, "See, we were right. We were right to let Doug Peterson go."
So they're paying perception. You think they're going to pay perception money?
I think that's part of it. I'm not saying the whole thing, but I think it's justification to why they let Doug Peterson go. They won a Super Bowl. The guy went to 2 Super Bowls. Now Howie's the most important part of this. I mean, let's be honest. But
so Howie gets $7 million and Nick gets 20.
You can't lose Howie.
And that perception is going to be that Nick was more important than
Howie. I'm ready to get Howie part ownership here. I can't go.
I love that take, man. All right. Hopefully we catch up with Mark. God bless the guy, man. Give him all the time he needs here. Let me throw this at you here. Couple questions heading. I just did this with Xander, and I'll do it with you. Couple questions heading into the draft here. Will the Eagles trade the 32nd pick, in your opinion?
100%. 100%. It's happening. There's no way this team's staying at 32. The question is which way they go.
That's right. Okay. What position will the Eagles take at number 32? Will they go biggest need or best player? And what I mean by that is this. You may have a need at edge, but if he's the sixth best edge,
right,
versus the second best tackle down at 32, if you don't trade out or up, how do you think they'll handle that pick?
I think they're going to go best player available.
Me too.
And I think the way it's going to play out, if my calculations of the cornbread is right, it's going to be a position of need. It's just going to be so happen that it ends up being a position of need.
How high would the Eagles be willing to trade up in the draft? How high do you think if they were going to go somewhere to get a player that they may like? How high? Remember, you're going to have to give up assets to move up like that. You got a lot of picks next year with comp picks coming.
Yeah.
How high would you be willing to see them move up?
I'd say like 22, 23, somewhere around there. I think that's where they go. I don't think they have a problem paying the assets. I mean, they have traded up how many times over the last several years? They've got plenty of picks to do it. So if you get, well, I got to look at the draft compensation thing, but I think it's like, I think in the late first, it's like third round is 10 picks or 10 spots. So if you give a third, your first, the third, and then let's say you throw in a fourth next year or something next year, even a third, yeah, I think you could get up there. And matter of fact, that's what I think they're going to do.
Okay, here's another one. Will the Eagles trade the number one pick 32, for a current player like they did with A.J. Brown? And would there be somebody that may be at a D tackle position or a edge position? Could you see them trading number 32? Just like they did. I think, if I'm not mistaken, help me out here, somebody. AJ's pick was like the 20th pick?
I think 18. 17 or 18.
Like that, yeah. I thought it was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So could you see them moving that pick for an established player?
You know, I mean, they've done it before. I mean, Jason Peters back in the day, they traded a first-round pick for him. But every time they've traded a first-round pick that I can remember for a player, they already had enough. They had 2 ones. So they drafted one and then traded one. Will they trade one this year? I don't know. I mean, I can't think of any players that's available. What, Travon Walker? My thinking on him has changed, to be honest with you. I would not trade for him, but about a month ago, I would have. Once Myles Garrett got paid, that threw that out the window.
All right. How will the draft impact Jordan Davis's contract extension? If they take a DT, is he all but gone?
Yeah, I think if they take a defensive tackle
in the first 2 rounds.
No, I think in the first round. I think if they take, like, let's say Walter Nolan in the first round, I think that tells you that Davis is here. His days are numbered. His days are numbered. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I honestly, I got a different take than many on the defensive line. I think Davis is going to. I think Davis. The key with Davis is extend him now. You get him at a disc. You probably could get him cheap. You probably could get a good bargain for him right now. So maybe they could extend him and get him at a discount. And then I would sit there and I think Ojomo is developing at the same pace Milton Williams was developing in during his time with the Eagles. Let him continue to develop. I would much rather get a mid-round defensive tackle that could come in and develop like they did with Milton Williams and somebody like that, because this draft is deep at defensive line.
Tell me if you subscribe to this is my plan down there, and especially with Jordan Davis. I'm not paying that guy $18 million or $15 million and paying $42 million and having $58 to $60 million tied up in two tackles. One guy is spectacular. The other guy is okay. He's never been productive in college. Okay. Now, here's the one thing I would do, though. I would pick that 5th-year option up, which would give me a 2 additional years. You give me 2 years. Now, follow me here. $12 million. I'm okay with that with Jordan Davis. Okay. $18 million on a 3-year contract with money up front. I'm not. So this is what you would get. And that deal doesn't hit until after 26. So I would get this. I would have draft Walter Nolan. I think he's more apt to play the 3 technique and play out in a 5 technique than what Moro Jomo is. I want to move Moro Jomo, and I talked to this with Clint Hurt. I think he's more apt to play inside, like around the nose. And I think I like him in that role of being the swing tackle. Look at what you would get here. You would get 3 players, first-round players on rookie contracts for the next 2 to 3 years, knowing full well next year in the offseason you got to play Jalen Carter. You would be cost efficient with all that assets. And hypothetically, if Jordan Davis pans out, then you're talking about having to pay another guy. That's rich man problems, as Xander likes to say. So you would have all those young players and create depth with Moro Ajomo by putting him in a role he was really good at a year ago. So you have Walter Nolan, you have Jalen Carter, you have Jordan Davis, and again, like you said, you get an edge in 2, maybe this Jack Sawyer guy and Nolan Smith. You've got all these guys playing outside for you, and they're all on rookie deals, cost effective. Because one thing has been effective, one thing has been a certainty. Don't you agree? Money's been a factor here in how they do business.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's not that they don't have it, but they're being judicious on how they spread it around.
It's a new problem because they've been so good in the draft. They've got all these contracts coming up. They've got to be ready to take care of. I totally get it. And I don't dislike your idea, actually, because I really like Walter Nolan. I think my approach would be slightly different at a different position. I would draft another defensive tackle and thinking I could develop him like Milton Williams. I think the most likely scenario for Jordan Davis is that you pick up his contract and you give him 2 more years. But I want to draft a safety. Look, I look at Malachi Starks.
How high do you want to draft?
I want to trade up and get him. I want to go up and get him. Because the way I see it is if you go out and get, let's say, in the first round, I want to go get him in the first because I need a guy to play right now. Listen, if I look at this secondary and I got Quinyon Mitchell, I got Cooper DeJean, I've got you got Reed Blankenship, whose contract they're going to want to extend him. So if I could get a safety in there, a talented safety that is as athletic as those guys, and then he's on a rookie deal. Now I'm free to sign Reed Blankenship to an extension. Mm-hmm. I've pretty much got my secondary, but one spot that we don't know about yet, set up for years to come. And then you talk about a guy like Christian Parker, who's here with the Eagles, who's developed secondary guys like crazy. If I could go get myself an athletic guy, like I prefer Nick Amanwari, right? If I could get him and get a guy like Athletic Freak to go along with Coop, to go along with Q, my secondary is pretty much set for the next 5 to 8 years. And I can also, with my defensive line, I think you got enough young guys that have developed good that I think we should trust that process. But I mean, this is this only happens if, everybody's close to, talent levels of each other. Like I'm not taking a safety if I have a defensive edge rusher that's ranked way higher than the safety. You know what I'm saying? So it has to fit talent wise. But I'm telling you, you've got a big problem at safety. I don't trust what they have at safety. If I could get myself a rookie safety that plays and starts, and like Coop and like Q did this year, and then I'm free to go pay Reed Blankenship, I'm doing it. I'm doing
Would
it.
you sign Justin Simmons for a year?
Preferably not. Preferably not.
If you're not happy there, wouldn't you want to have some experience back there?
Yeah, you might want to. I just keep thinking about Kevin Byard.
I know. Yeah.
Like, I just don't want this guy who's at the end of his career to come in and be a problem when you've had so much success developing these young guys. Let's trust the coach. Let's go out and get the talent, stick them in there, and play them, just like you did with the other two guys. It's worked so far.
All right. We let Mark Holmes off the hook. So we got a couple last ones here for Philly 500. Rest in peace to Mark Holmes' dad. We send love out to him. We'll catch him next week. And also, I will say this to you first before I go on here. Dude, what are the Cowboys doing? I mean, this stupid move. You know what? I had somebody actually ask me earlier. Stills, how does this move for the quarterback affect Dak Prescott? I'm like, who are you talking about? Joe Milton, the third? I know. And how does Joe Milton, if Joe Milton affects, that would be like telling me that the Eagles quarterback that they just got from the Cleveland Browns, that guy's going to affect Jalen Hurts' status. I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean,
I don't know.
He's going to step down after this year, by the way, just so you know.
Is he really? Is that truthful?
Yeah, truthful.
I don't like that. I want him to stay forever. Guy's got another 100 years, I figured. But I mean, look, to me, Dallas is the one team that I scratch my head. I look at them and I go, okay, where am I scared of Dallas at this year? Am I scared offensively? Does their running game scare me? No. Does their passing game scare me? No. Their offensive line isn't as good. Okay, they picked up a bunch of guys. Talking about going cheap, right? The Eagles have a plan in place because of young talent.
It's a
Dallas, they're signing guys who are former first-round picks that never lived up to the contract. They're trying to go cheap. I don't know. I just got this feeling like in some weird way they're trying to sabotage Dak Prescott.
Listen,
on purpose.
You bring a great point up, and there's a difference in how the Eagles are signing these former ones versus the Cowboys. Here's what the Eagles are doing. They're signing those guys for one reason. It's an old Jimmy Johnson philosophy. If you got a lot of young players on the team, what you want them to do is beat these guys out. So you'll know, because you have so much faith in your young talent, that they will win. They want Keely Ringo to beat Jackson.
Exactly. And that's why it was Adoree Jackson they brought in. They want somebody they feel he could beat.
And you get that? They want to create competition with all these people for their young players. Here's Dallas. Dallas is signing those players to stop the dam from leaking. Right. Those guys are being brought in to win games. What the Eagles are doing by bringing these guys in, they're trying to player development at the same time with winning and elevate their younger players. There's a way different philosophy in Philadelphia than compared to Dallas. Dallas is just thinking they're going to try to plug and play.
Now, listen, I got a question.
Buying into their younger guys.
Agreed. No, I totally agree. Well, I got a question for you. Yeah, I saw something. I read something today where some people around the league feel that Shadur Sanders may drop to them. Do you think that's possible, that he could drop to them?
I think what you're going to get as you get closer to the draft, you're going to get this pot smoker, undisciplined, coachable, only by his dad. No one else can coach him. And he always blames other people. And this is going to come from the opposing agents of Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, guys like that they're going to be sending intel out, because right now we're getting close. We're 21 days out till tonight for the NFL draft.
Can't wait.
Okay. I mean, so you're going to start getting into the land of, and you're going to do everything you can to try to dismiss this kid. I mean, if his name was Shadur James, nobody would know anything about him and nobody would care. They would base him on his merits. But because he's Deion Sanders' kid, I don't think it's helping him in this process. I think it's actually hurting him.
Do you think he's a quarterback, NFL quarterback? Do you think he'll be successful at the next level?
I know. Yeah. I think he's got Jamarcus Russell all over him.
What about Cam Ward?
I see Baker Mayfield.
Wow. It's interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting because I look at it like for the Giants, right? Not to change the subject, but for the Giants, to me, if they don't come out with a franchise quarterback this draft, they're in big trouble.
I agree. Xander thinks the Giants are going to take him. I do too.
I think they got no choice. Like I really think they've trapped themselves into it. I don't know. I would have been more scared of the Cowboys if they would have traded Dak Prescott to Cleveland. I'm being honest for the future because they don't scare me right now. And to me, they need. I think they should be trying to get Genty. That like if I was them, that's why I would be trying to get a running back, somebody explosive. They're not explosive. They don't scare me at all. At all.
I mean, here's the question about the Giants. If you're the Giants, do you really want Joe Schoen picking another quarterback decision in New York after you bombed on Daniel Jones with the contract and not bringing? Now you're landing on Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson to win you ball games, and you want that guy. And I'm not saying you do, but that guy's going to make the decision. I'm starting to think Brian Dable is overrated. You know why? I just saw Josh Allen win an MVP, and he supposedly was the quarterback whisperer up in Buffalo. Well, that's Joe Brady's done a hell of a job up there with that kid. Yeah. And that guy now has won the MVP award. So, I mean, who the hell is Brian Dable now and Joe Schoen? Do I want those guys? If Travis Hunter's there, if I'm New York and I'm John Mara, I want Travis Hunter. Because I don't trust those guys to pick the quarterback.
See, but that's what they're going to do. And that's, to me, the trap that they've put themselves in. You go out and you get Russell Wilson. Now you're drafted players to win games this year. Well, you go out and you have Russell Wilson play. I think Russell Wilson, I don't think he's what he was, but I don't think he's bad. I think you could win 6 or 7 games. Now you're not picking high enough to get a franchise quarterback. So you're really setting the rebuild process off years for only a few games because a GM is trying to keep his job. They should have fired him and started over. To me, that's the biggest problem the Giants did. To me, it was a huge mistake to not fire that GM.
Do you like Sanders?
Shadur Sanders?
Yeah, Xander likes him.
I'm back and forth. I see him sometimes in college, and I think, he could play. And then I think, my gut feeling is that he's not going to be as good as they think he's going to be, or some people think he's going to be.
Here's what he did in college.
But I do like Cam Ward, though.
I like his pocket presence. I do. I mean, I like his journey where he went through all those schools. He wasn't recruited at all. Then he ended up becoming the number 1 pick in the draft now. And I like the whole journey thing. It reminds me of Jaden Daniels a little bit. Jaden went to Arizona State, had a transfer, go to LSU. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. Here's Shadur Sanders. Shadur Sanders in his time in Colorado in 2 years never beat a top 25 team in the entire time he was at Colorado. Right. What's the significant moment? Now, so what people would say is, Sills, what were they prior to Shadur Sanders showing up in Colorado and Boulder? I would say, is that more on Shadur or is that more on Deion?
More on Deion.
Okay. I mean, so Deion went to Jackson State. Now I know that Shadur followed him and so did Travis Hunter. I mean, so did a lot of players, Joe Horn's kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say this, the one thing that I watch him do, because he knows how to get paid. You know how he gets paid? Quarterbacks in this league get paid on statistics. What's the one thing he was terrible at? He was terrible. If you have an O-line that's horrible, you throw the ball away. What does that do, though? It lowers your completion percentage. So he'd rather take sacks, put his team in field position that are terrible, take those sacks, to throw the ball away so his numbers could look better on draft day. That's how I look at him. He didn't sacrifice his game because the father had carved out a perfect life at Jackson State and Colorado. Well, if he goes to New York or he goes to another shitty team like Tennessee, they're not carving out they're not carving out the perfect utopia for him. You're going to have to go in there and change it like Joe Burrow. Is that guy capable of doing that? Joe Burrow went to LSU, won a national title.
Right.
Okay. After getting kicked out of Ohio State, Jaden Daniels went to LSU, won the Heisman Trophy. Who's this guy?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
I mean, that's how I see him.
Yeah,
Now,
I kind of agree.
Still going to go I think he's still going to go in the first round, though.
Yeah,
you know? I do. Last one here.
No, I definitely think so.
Last one here for you. How high are they going to go in the draft to replace Goddard?
I think as early as the second round. I think as early as second. I think if Tyler Warren was there, they would take him, but he's not. He's going to be going like what, top 10? So
10 or 12.
To me, I don't think they draft a tight end in the first round unless it's him and he's going to be gone. I think second or third round is where they would pull the trigger.
It's kind of deep at that position in this draft. There's kind of players, the kid from Miami, maybe the kid from Bowling Green, who I think is a little undersized. There's a couple kids. A kid from Texas isn't bad.
Yeah.
That Lovely kid might fall down. I don't know how far. I don't see him you don't see him using the number one pick, though, for tight end.
I don't. I guess anything's possible. The only way I would see it is if somehow Warren fell to like 22. If he fell somewhere around there, maybe. But other than that, I don't see it. And I don't think that's going to happen either. So,
Billy, these next 3 weeks, you're going to be on fire on your network. Make sure you check him out. Are you going to live stream the draft?
The whole thing, every second of it. I'll be live for every second of the draft. So it should be fun.
Absolutely best guys there is in Philly covering the Eagles. Brother, we appreciate you. I can't
thank you, my man,
enough for spending
appreciate
time with me, man. Thank you again.
Man.
Catch you next week, my friend. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Our friend, Philly 500. Make sure you guys check him out. Yeah, we gave our friend Mark Combs, who's dealing with some stuff. We'll do it next week with him. Guys, don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in America with over $20 billion recovered for their clients. When people go to Morgan & Morgan, be rest assured, you are going to not have to settle for what the insurance companies come in with their initial offers. Told you about the family right here in PA. $650K they were initially offered for a resolution on a case. No way. They got $26 million. That's right. $26 million. Down in Florida, a family was offered initially by an insurance company $350K. Not happening. They got $12 million for that family, battling the insurance companies with thousands of attorneys that they have. Look, this will be the easiest decision that you ever make. Do me a favor, guys. Please, at the end of the day, this is going to be a decision that'll be the easiest for you. For more info, check out my friends at forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sales sent you.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Big Sills National Football Show. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. Phillies 5-1. Phillies are probably the third best team in the National League behind the Padres and the Dodgers. They're one of the top 3 teams. The Padres have pitching. Dodgers have everything. I mean, the Dodgers have so much depth, and they have it down in their farm system, too. Philadelphia doesn't have a farm system. Not that the Padres do. A.J. Preller, the general manager of the Padres, has tooled up their minor league system, plus paying now because of television. I mean, you're paying Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado north of $36 million a year. Okay? Guys, hit that like button for me, please. Appreciate you guys. We're going to reset here in a second. Phillies are probably third, but we'll see how this thing plays out. Baseball's a long season, man. Team you see right now in April, obviously, will not be the teams that you see come October. So, I mean, the Yankees, once again, hitting a lot of home runs. Still, if you look at their record, they're kind of hanging around 500. I mean, I still think Baltimore in that division, Rays, Boston, I think they have more depth, especially on the farm. The Dodgers are one of the best constructed baseball teams of all time. It's money and it's wealth of riches in the farm system. They got the best general manager in all of sports, and Andrew Friedman. He's got an open checkbook, and he wins championships. He's got 2 titles since he's been the general manager of the Dodgers. He's the best GM in sports. And you don't know anything about him. Very few people in here know the name Andrew Friedman. He is the best GM. He drafts well. He recruits well. He signs everyone. They want to play in Los Angeles for the Dodgers. I mean, almost choked today. I mean, who cares? Dodgers are going to win it all again because they have best management system. By the way, I'll tell you what, you got to hand it to Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson does not connect himself with losing. Magic Johnson is a part owner of the Dodgers who won a World Series ring last year. And now he's a part owner of the Washington Commanders. and he's in that front office, you think there's any coincidence that Magic Johnson, every single time he touches something, whether it be investing in black communities or investing in sports teams, that guy's not a success? Magic Johnson is the antithesis of on the court, off the court, expanding your brand and who you are. Let me before we move on, let me tell you why I'm such a Magic guy. In a 5-year span, Magic Johnson, and then you tell me a player who did this inside of 5 years, from high school to his first year in the NBA. Magic Johnson won 2 state championships in high school in Michigan. He leads his basketball team to a NCAA championship over Larry Bird. His rookie year, he beats the 76ers in 6 games. And as a rookie, a 19-year-old rookie, he goes for 45, 14, and 7, playing in place of Jabbar. And he's 19 years old. I don't know about you, in a 4-year span, he won 2 national titles, an NCAA title, and an NBA championship, and was the finals MVP at 19. Name me another guy who did that. He's the ultimate winner. Okay? Ultimate. And, I mean, there's no coincidence. Now he's involved with the Dodgers. They just won a World Series, the best team in baseball. Hiring great people. Now he's involved with Josh Harris and the Commanders. I mean, 83, the last time the Sixers were relevant. Should have won more titles. That was a great basketball team. Think about that with Magic. One last time. Last 2 years in high school, they won 2 state championships. He was the player of the year in Michigan. He takes Michigan State to the national championship and wins it. His first year in the pros at 19 years old, he's the finals MVP and carries the Lakers in Game 6 to the NBA championship over the 76ers with no Kareem. I don't know. That's called getting it done. That gets a how you doing. That's how good that guy. So when you see Magic involved in something, you guarantee it. It's got success all over it. Okay? All right. My top 20 NFL graded players by Big Sills. These are the 20 best players. I'm going to get to that. My friend Jason Cole's going to join us. He was at the NFL owner meetings. We'll talk to him on that. Also, one thing about, before I get going here, be on the lookout for this. Coming up in the next couple of months, be prepared for the most un-American company in America to start making athletes do things that you're going to be shocked. Nike will be going after the White House. This is not a political statement. But because of Trump's tariffs, Nike is taking a bath in their stock. Why? 90% of their apparel is made in Vietnam, and those tariffs he's putting on Asia are going to affect their shoes. Be prepared for more Nike increases. So there's going to be an assault with people, most notably athletes, attacking the White House because of the tariffs, even though Nike uses slave labor to make that apparel. So know this, it'll be hypocritical. So don't believe it, is what I'm saying. Okay? I mean, it's one thing to sit here and tell me how shitty America is. It's another thing to represent a company that uses slave labor to make those same shoes and tell me I'm an asshole. I'm not talking about whether you like Trump or not. I'm talking about hypocrites and hypocritical companies like Nike. That's all I'm saying to you. Okay? Yeah, sucks in America, doesn't it? And athletes come out telling you how bad this is. They give you innuendos and what political party. Yet they use the same shitty system that helps make them $500 shoes using slave labor in Asia. I mean, and I'm not saying I don't know Nike or Adidas stuff. I do. But I'm not a hypocrite not to know that. I mean, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, dude. All right. Jason Cole's going to join us here in a couple. Nike's one of the most un-American companies in our country today. 90% of their products are made overseas. They don't give American jobs. They turn around and go to the inner cities and take those same shoes made with slave labor and charge inner city kids $500 for a pair of LeBron James shoes. That's the shit I don't like about LeBron. Telling me what an asshole I am, but yet this guy doesn't realize the room he's in. That's all I'm saying. Hey, I use Nike products. I know what's up. Well, don't tell me bullshit like that. And you're trying to tell me you're better than me because you're not. Brady, too. I don't hear Brady politicianing, though. Like LeBron telling me what an asshole I am. All right. Those ads will be coming because of the tariffs. That's why Shaq broke away from Reebok and went to a different company so he could make those shoes for the inner city kids at Walmart. Shaq's a good dude, man. Lady came up to him. You ever hear the story? Kmart, that's it, Forrest. You ever hear? Shaq goes, how could you do that with these shoes and charge these kids this? You know what Shaq did? Shaq wrote her a $5,000 check. She slapped it out of his hand and she went, I don't want your money. Shaq ended his contract with Reebok right there. Said, we're ending it. Make shoes that everyone can afford. That's a different guy. That's why Shaq is one of the greatest entrepreneurs. I love Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq totally gets it. LeBron doesn't. He'll look at you and call you an asshole and use a slave to make his shoes. Come on, dog. Shaq understands it. You know, we're not doing that. I don't feel right doing that. Shaq's got integrity. That's where LeBron falls short of it. All right. Hit that like button, guys. We appreciate you, dudes. I'm going to go over these lists here before Jason comes on that we went over with Philly 500 and also with Xander. Also had some NFL draft storylines, and I'm going to give you my top 20 NFL prospects in order. Okay? Shaq sees the writing on the wall. He sure does. By the way, I agree 1,000% with Forrest. Jalen Hurts gets it. Jalen Hurts gets it too. Yeah, I believe that 1,000%. Jalen gets it. Jalen Hurts gets it. He looks like a guy that loves where he's playing, and he's doing a lot of good things in the community. Absolutely, I think Hurts gets it. That's why the organization loves him. All right, I'm going to go over these takes first, and I'm going to give you a little bit more thorough of a spin here on this. Will the Eagles trade the 32nd pick? If there's not here, this is what I would do at 32. If it gets down to 32 and you have the 6th best edge and you have the 4th best DT, I'm not taking that. I'm not doing it. I'm trading out. I don't want the fourth best DT at a first. How many people would draft the fourth best defensive tackle at 32? It's one thing to be the fifth player taken, and you're the fifth pick versus the 32nd pick. Are you taking the fourth best DT financially in the first round? No way. Cowboys would? They would. That's not. Or the sixth best edge rusher. It's pretty deep. Am I really going to take the sixth or seventh best player in that respected group, pay him first round money, and guarantee it? No way. I'm out of that. Am I going to do that for any player? Would I take the fourth best or third best tight end at 32 and pay him $28 million guaranteed? Remember, the rookie contracts, if you're drafted in the first round, are all guaranteed. I'm not doing that. Why would you do that? Especially what we're talking about with money. That doesn't make fiscal sense. What position will the Eagles take at 32? We just basically explained it. Best player available over need. 32, I'm taking the best player available. And if I think he's the fifth best guy, now if a player falls, that's a different conversation. Like if Mike Green falls down there, that'll be an interesting, if he falls to 25. Would the Eagles move up for that dude? Will the Eagles trade the number one pick for a current established star to a team in the NFL? Would you trade that 32nd pick to Tennessee for that DT you have, where you could play him in Milton Williams' spot and have him on the same line as Jalen Carter? Remember something. I don't want bad players around Jalen Carter the same way I don't want bad players around Jalen Hurts. I want good players around Jalen Carter. I want to build as many good players I possibly can up to get that. The only way you're going to get the maximum. Do you not agree? One of the reasons that you got the maximum production out of Reggie White is because you had Clyde Simmons and Jerome Brown and Mike Pitts on that Eagle D-line back in the day in Gangrene. You could say all you want that Jalen Carter made those other guys better. He sure did. But Reggie White's not Reggie White if you don't have Jerome Brown and Clyde Simmons and Mike Pitts in the D-line. Was Reggie better? Of course he was. Of course he was better. Okay? Absolutely better. Hopefully we can catch up with our friend Jason Cole here in a minute. I know Jason's been working because of the NFL draft. So let me see here. Hopefully we're able to catch up with him here in a second here. All right. I think this draft has got a lot to do with and how it impacts Jordan Davis. If you take a DT, I think they're going to go down the path of what I'm saying. You get him for 2 more years, Jordan Davis. Okay? You get him for 2 more, and you have 3 dudes in the D-line that are first-round picks. Okay? You were part of the 1K men when Bonnie Blue. Not sure what that means, dude. No idea what that is. Hit the like button. I think this impacts Jordan Davis a lot. How high are you going to go in the draft to replace Dallas Goedert? I'm still going to stick, okay, with them in the second round. Still going to stick there. Oh, people. Oh, but on. The Philly 500 House of Mouse. Oh, my God. Stupidity at its finest. All right. We're waiting for Jason Cole. Hopefully we're able to catch up with him. Seals, where do you think you would fall in a draft if you played in 25 in your prime? Well, it's a good question. With the production I had at Miami, with my team that I had, if I can have everything, the environment, I'd have been the 5th pick in the draft. Remember something, I came out as a junior, and I was the 56th player taken. And I came out with 1 year left. Okay? I had 1 year, and I had 1 year left. I'd probably be in the top. I was projected to be in the top 5 rounds or top 5 picks in 87. I'd have went there. Okay? So I'd have been top 5, top 10. Plus, we won a national championship. Yeah, well, as a junior, I went 56. So, I mean, 1 more year, and I was the top defensive tackle in the country. I was an Outland and Lombardi candidate. I made all the preseason All-American teams, Playboy and all that. Yeah, I probably would have went top 10. But again, when you go top 10, you go to shitty teams. Like I went with the Bucks. I went with a shitty organization. Mason Graham, top prospect out of Michigan. Let me give you that right now. I'll give you my top 20. Here are my top 20 picks. Sills could have pulled off a Eli Manning. No, I would have went where I was drafted. I did anyway. I went to the Bucks. Okay? Sills, anything Jalen Carter can improve on? Could you see him as an edge rusher a little bit? Professor, what I would do with him if I was Vic, because limited talent that you have in your D-line compared to what you had a year ago on that top flight defense, I'd move him around more. Like I'd move him to the left and right side like they did with Reggie. And I would move him on mismatches. Who's the worst guard? I'm not looking to line him up against the best guy. I want to know, look at the Giants. You know what you could do with Jalen Carter versus the New York Giants? You could line him up at over the right guard, the center, the left guard, and the left tackle, and he would annihilate them. They got a pretty good left tackle up there. Why would I want to line up my best player on their best player to try to nullify that? That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for advantages, not stalemates. Not saying that that would be that, but I'm trying to increase his production, not limit it. So I would move him around more. That's why it's essential that you get production out of the other guys. If Jalen Carter doesn't have anybody on that D-line or in that front seven that's producing, his numbers and his production will suffer this year because they'll just double him and triple him more. That's why you got to get him help in this draft. You understand that? If you go into this season with what you have on your roster right now, his production will suffer. You don't have the personnel you had a year ago where he was top flight. Sills, Jalen Carter, May. Those are good players, though. Milton developed into a really good football player. And Josh was a good football player. Okay? He was. All right. I had to get Jason Cole, and I know he's probably been working his backside off with these NFL owner meetings here. And I got to tell you, this has got to be one of the absolutely unbecoming conversations that you could ever have is this tush push thing. As a player who played, this will be the 89th draft in NFL history. Only 23,000 men have ever been drafted, and I'm one of them. To sit here and talk about a tush push is obnoxious. Okay? Now, before I bring Jason on, here's my theory so he can hear it. I think the NFL, when you have the commissioner, Dr. Sills parachutes in out of nowhere, all of a sudden you got the NFL talking and giving you the impression of CTE down the road. And then you got Rich McKay, the competition committee guy, coming in, my friend, who's also talking. You've got the three-headed monster you need to end a play. You got the competition committee chairman. You got the team. You got the league's doctor. And you got the commissioner. This thing's not going to make it. With all that being said, let's bring our friend, Hall of Fame voter Jason Cole in here and get his take on this thing here. Jason, are you buying what I'm saying?
Are you being a conspiracy theorist?
I always am.
Trying to get rid of the play? Is that what you're trying to? Is that
No. Well, here, let me start this with you then. Do you think the Eagles win the Super Bowl if they don't have that play in their arsenal this past season?
Yeah, I think they still win the Super Bowl. I'm not, I think that there would be about, even if you didn't have the guys pushing Jalen behind him, like Jalen's really good at that play in and of himself, right? Like he's a strong guy. Like that was part of his sales point before he went through the draft is how much he could squat and how strong he is, how tough he is, how good he is as a runner and a willing runner, right? Like he likes to do that. So to me, I don't think that maybe they'd be 5% or 10% less effective if they didn't have the guys pushing from behind. But I still think they'd be really good at it. And so I think they use it. And I don't think that one play made them champions. It's made them very good, but they got great players. That's why they're really good.
How about this, Jace? I said this, and you tell me, because this is a little bit of the conspiracy in me here. I think it looks bad on TV. They like big plays, explosion plays, and they're concerned about being in a courtroom down the line if players come to them and say, hey, that play, because they're using the phrases like even Jeffrey Lurie at the owners' meeting said this, hey, this could be. Well, could be is not something to legislate against. Anything can happen in that league. Every player and every owner and every coach knows that. Don't you think this has got a lot to do with TV and future lawsuits?
Well, look, anytime you get lawyers involved in talking about football,
I think we lost Jason a little bit here. Hopefully we're able to catch up with him again here because Jason was at the meetings, and I hope that he's able to do that. I mean, Tim, we moved him around a little bit because Jason's got to do something on Friday, so sometimes we got to adjust, and that's kind of what we're doing here a little bit. We're adjusting here on a Thursday for him so that he can come on with us because, he's one of the more plugged-in guys, and I've had him for all the years here. So let's see if we can bring Jason back up here again and get Jason's take on it. Jace, do you agree it's more about TV and really future lawsuits?
I don't know about the TV angle of it. I mean, I don't know that anybody objects to watching a single play of the tush push, right? It's no different than a quarterback sneak in that way, right? Lawsuits. Look, if you get lawyers involved in football, the game is not, you don't play the game, right? So this is why I've always said the NFL should let the players decide what the rules of contact are.
Huh?
And tell the players, look, you're grown men. Go decide what you want to do, how you want to play.
I like it.
And then you give us the waiver and say, look, this is what we as players have voted on and agreed to do. And therefore we are never going to sue the league for the damage that resulted from what we did. And let the NFLPA do all the studies on, on risk management and medicals and CTE and everything else that you got to pay attention to. But put that responsibility on the players. Right? And like that, the league would be really well served if they would do that. But they don't, and then you end up getting people who legislate the game who are not players. Right? Who are not there out in the field. Who, if you tell people who are not players that this is allowed to happen, they're going to tell you it's dangerous and that this subjects them to lawsuits. Absolutely, that's what they're gonna say. So
don't you agree? Don't you agree, Jace? The commissioner, because he's at the forefront of this, they're going to just frighten those other 8 owners into it with CTE, and that's where he's going to get his votes with.
I mean, I guess I don't know how this one comes out. I just think it's when you go to the level of saying the tush push is not an allowable play, you are speaking to sort of the essence of what the game is. The essence of the game is goal line stand. It has always been that. It has been man on man. It has been me stronger than you going out and getting a yard, right? Like that's what the game is.
Jason, think about
take
the
that
team.
away, what game do you have left?
Jason, think about the team that drew this up. One of the most famous plays in the history of that organization, the Green Bay Packers, winning their 3rd world championship off of a quarterback sneak because they had, what was the similarities? Fuzzy Thurston, Jerry Kramer, Forrest Gregg, Bart Starr. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, we've always loved the short yardage guy, the Pete Johnsons, the Ickey Woods, the tough guys who are willing to stick their nose in there and get the hard yards when we need to get the hard yards. That's what football is. It's, at the end of the day, it's sometimes a knucklehead, macho, Neanderthal activity. And that's okay. Like, that's part of it, and that's all right. Now, the other stuff is important, too. That's the complex stuff, the thinking man stuff. But if you aren't, it's like Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh, everybody thinks, thinking man, egg-headed. That guy was a boxer.
Oh, yeah.
He believed in boxing as an essence of what you do as part of this game. Toughest man wins. And he believed in that kind of stuff. So, like, you can't take that out of the game and keep it the essence of the game. I just don't understand where we're going here. I mean, again, I think we've got too many lawyers worried about the future and future lawsuits based off of one play that they could allow the players to regulate it themselves. And I'll say this, there are a ton of players, including Jason Kelsey, who will say, I hate this play. But let them decide, do they want to allow it?
I love that. Jace, couple here for you. Nick Sirianni, do you make him the highest paid head football coach, more than Andy Reid, at $20 million? Or do you look at him more in the line of somewhere in the middle of the pack at 16? He's a $7 million guy now. He's got a great resume, but as everyone knows how that organization runs, the owner believes in his process and in his culture. The general manager is really the most important person in the room. He makes all the hires, he signs all the players, and he drafts all the players. Howie is really the centerpiece in that whole thing. I mean, how valuable do you think Nick Sirianni is to the Eagles' success?
If Nick goes out in the market, what does he get? 15? Does he get
Okay.
12?
I think he's going to
I-
land. I think he's going to land at 16.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. Do I make him more higher paid than Andy Reid? No. But you know, it's all about leverage. Do you have the leverage? I mean, he could sit there and say, "Look, I'll play it out. I don't care." If he feels insulted and says he doesn't get the contract that he wants, okay, play it out. But what's his leverage? And in all likelihood, he's going to do a 5-year. He's going to do a 5-year deal for $80 million, you know, or a 4-year deal for $64 million, because that's life-changing money. I mean, what's he going to do? Say no to it? I mean, come on. He's going to say yes, but there's a point at which you can't insult him, right? Like you can't sit there and say a guy who won a Super Bowl and made another Super Bowl and nearly won it and has done that in his first 3 years.
And here's 12.
Yeah, you can't do that to him.
Yeah, because the guy from Jacksonville just got 13 and a half. You're not going to come under that.
Of course you're not. So you got to respect. You got to pay him a certain amount of respect, or he can say, "I'm not working for you ever again." And look, as much as I respect Howie and what Howie does, he ain't coaching. I mean, Howie's.
So you think the position of head coach is more valuable per se?
No. Don't. There's a hierarchy. I'm saying is Howie can't do what the head coach does. The head coach can't do what Howie does. Howie can't do what the head coach does. Howie can't walk into a locker room and lead a group of men. I mean, I like Howie a lot.
But who do you think the owners look at as more important than valuable to them? The coach or the GM?
I think he looks at Howie. I think Howie's got great leverage to sit there and say,
"His deal's up too."
Yeah, he's got great leverage. But the thing about it is you do have to have a coach, and you have to have a coach that people respect. And they respect Sirianni. They play hard for him. Like, it's working. You know, and, yeah, you can say, oh, Fangio did this, and this happened here. And that. Yes, you can say all that stuff. Sirianni was there. Pay him his just respect. Give him 4 or 5 years at $16 million. Call it a day. And if he blanches at that and says, I don't want to do that, and say, okay, play it out, Nick. You know, like, play it out. See what you get. Because it ain't going to be 16.
Here's the last one for you. What do you make of your boy Andrew Luck hiring Frank Reich at your place at Stanford for a 1-year job until they can go out and make a national search for a head coach? And by the way, folks, just so you know, on Stanford's got like an annuity, or I think they have like a trust fund.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest in the planet. They can hire and pay whoever they want to pay.
Well, no. I mean, people mistake the endowment. The endowment is not part, like, they don't pay for athletics. Athletics is supposed to pay for itself.
They gave David Shaw $10 million a year.
Not quite, but, you know, they had to pay him off. Look, they didn't like doing it. I'll tell you that. And they've been underwater on athletics for about 6 straight years.
They have. They've cut some programs. You're right, wrestling and all
that. They tried, and it didn't succeed. But, yeah, look, money is not our problem. Frank knows Andrew, you know, from coaching. Frank is a really great guy who will come in and, you know, add some dignity to the process after, you know, we went through a rough time with the previous coach. If he's the long-term answer, I'm good with that. You know, I'll trust Andrew's judgment. But, you know, Andrew was also part of hiring Troy Taylor. So
yes,
he has to take responsibility for that. But, you know, I also, you know, he realized when he had made a mistake, cut the mistake and get rid of it. You know, like, move on. So all that is the right moves. I don't know how it's going to work out long term. I think that Andrew has a good sense, and talking to him a couple of times about this, is whoever the next coach is, and whether it's Frank or somebody else, they better believe in toughness, because that's what Harbaugh believed in and what David Shaw believed in for a long time. Toughness wins at our program. It's not pretty boy football. You know, like Bill Walsh was, we go back to Bill Walsh in the 70s being a great coach, and, you know, the passing game and the West Coast offense and all that. But again, it was about toughness. You know, you got to be tough and you got to be able to attack, and that's often lost at Stanford.
Do you think that's a good job?
No, not really. Not in its current state. I think it's an incredibly difficult job. I don't know if Stanford's going to survive. Yeah, I've told people at my own institution this. I don't know that Stanford's going to survive in 4 to 5 years when they realign college football into whatever.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that it's a very good chance that college football is going to become a sort of junior version of the NFL with, at most, 64 teams. Is Stanford one of the top 64 programs in the country?
Or Cal?
Well, Cal certainly has a much harder argument than we do because we have money to invest in sports.
Right.
I would love to have Cal be, I don't want to lose my traditional rivalry. That's an important thing. And Cal has a tougher time surviving. I'm not saying it's easy for us. So we have a lot of work ahead to do in the next 4 years to justify staying in whatever becomes of Division I football, or making sure that Division I football resembles something like what it is now. Because I'll leave you on this thought. Can you imagine a world in which, like, what used to...
I guess he leaves us on this thought now. All right, Jace. Dang, I appreciate you, brother. Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll just tell him right now. Let me text him. Hey, we got you, brother. We're good. I want to make sure we text him here. Hey, we're good. We are good. Thank you for coming on. We are good. Thank you for coming on. All right. We're good. All right. All good. Yeah, I agree with 1,000% with what he said. Neil, I told you earlier in the program, is going to funnel the programs down to roughly about, like he said, 65 programs, maybe even fewer, because Neil is going to eliminate programs like Stanford, Cal, a lot of the ACC teams. And you know what's going to happen? College sports is going to determine whether or not you're going to be a football program or you're going to be a basketball program. You're not going to be able to run two with nil. Unless you're a team like look at Alabama. Alabama's now able to pay. Why? Did you see what the payouts were for the NCAA tournament? How do you compete with this? The Southeastern Conference. Xander will love this. The Southeastern Conference generated $70 million for their participation in the NCAA tournament alone. The Big Ten 42, the Big 12 40, the ACC 18, the Big East 18. SEC was stroked a check from that tournament just by the teams that made it, $70 million. And they spread that out with the body and with the programs. Just that. They just signed a contract for that tournament and the football tournament. Every single program in the Southeastern Conference this past year generated over $70 million alone in revenue. 70 million. You add an additional 7. You're talking of programs that are generating over $100 million that are down in the SEC. You want to know why Howie recruits and stays in the SEC? It's exactly what I told you. If you stay in that conference or the Big Ten, you got the best coaching, you've got the best facilities, you've got players that have been recruited from around the country. You're not going to go wrong. It's making it easier to recruit and to draft. If I'm Howie Roseman and I'm getting ready for the upcoming draft and I've got all those picks, you know where I'm hanging? The programs that I told you: Clemson, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Oregon, this last year of Michigan, LSU, Tennessee. I'm hanging out in those rooms because that's where the best players in the country are. And the college kids are now, Look at Arch Manning. Arch Manning is making, he's made $5 million a year in nil alone. And he's not even the starter. He is now at Texas. When he leaves Texas, Arch Manning would have generated almost $20 million. Ole Miss, another good one. Lane does a great job recruiting. College sports is, how about this? The head football coach at Georgia, Nick Sirianni, will not make more than him. That guy makes $18 million a year. He ain't making that. He may be around that, but Nick's going to make as much as Kirby Smart. That's just the landscape of football today. But programs like San Diego State, like, get this. I would say this to you. Why are you having Temple football? Why don't you end it? You're going nowhere with it. Cancel the program. Put your money into hoop. You're a hoop school. It's easier to fund 5 guys or 12 players than 100 in a football program. Temple makes the biggest mistake keeping that thing going. You're going nowhere. Nobody cares about it in Philly. Nobody, they care more about UPenn football than they do about Temple. Nobody cares. They should can it. Put your money into your basketball program. All right. I didn't even get to my top 20. And we got a whole bunch of stuff we got to still get to. We're 21 days out. Tonight would be 3 weeks from tonight, the NFL draft. Great stuff. Guys, you were great. Please do me a favor. Hit that like button on the way out. Big Z, Big Joe, thank you. 2 to 6 tomorrow. And we'll see you on the flip side.